Why did he stab the sword into the ground? Why did he stab the sword into the ground? What was an ascending dragon? It was not a giant dragon crushing down, but a dragon diving into the ground, rising up into the sky. This was called ascending dragon. The eyes of the two tightened. They wanted to escape, but it was already too late. A powerful force rushed out from beneath their feet. Roar! The ferocious phantom dragon. Hualala! Break through the earth. Swallowing them all in one gulp was like a little fishman's ultimate move. A large shark rushed out from the ground and swallowed them all in one gulp. It was just that. Compared to the shark, this dragon was even more ferocious. With a single gulp, he was sent flying into the air. When his health fell to 0, he landed heavily on the ground. Bam! Bam! Both of them were on the verge of death when they hit the ground. At this moment, the entire arena was silent. Not a single sound could be heard, even a pin drop could be heard. Too terrifying. No one would have thought that it would be such a result, and even more people thought that Long Fei's sword moves were actually so strange, that even young Dao had a face full of bewilderment. What a strong move, it's so hard to defend against it. Brat, you've really surprised me. Ha ha ha. Awesome. Too awesome. Young Dao was indescribably satisfied with Long Fei. Now, he was even more determined in his heart. No matter what, he must bring Long Fei into the ancient antiquity. Thinking of those scenes, he couldn't help but become excited. Lin Yuantu was stunned. He had always guessed that Long Fei was someone from the divinity, and the feeling Long Fei gave him right now was that of a divine powerhouse. Powerhouse above them. A real ancient strong. He was simply too strong. And Long Fei were people from completely different worlds. Long Fei walked forward step by step, until he was in front of Gui Tianyi, and then he exploded with a stomp. The health bar returned to 0. Ding! Congratulations to the player Long Fei for killing Gui Tianyi. Do you wish to absorb his cultivation? No. It still didn't explode. Gui Tianyi, this kind of monster, was not even considered a boss. Even if he dropped it, nothing good would come out of it. And then, Long Fei then walked in front of Wu Fengtian, and asked coldly, threatening this daddy? Blood trickled out of the corner of Wu Fengtian's mouth as he watched Long Fei walk towards him. His body continuously shrank backwards as he said, Master, I was wrong. Please spare my life, I won't dare to do it again. Never again, please, my lord. Long Fei leisurely walked forward, and said, threatening lousy, and then threatening again, didn't you just issue the order very happily? Send people from the Black Wolf mercenary to kill me? You didn't think that I would be able to kill the Wolf King, right? You didn't expect me to annihilate 14 clans in one day, did you? You still didn't expect me to stand in front of you, did you? Some people are not meant to be offended, do you understand? Wu Fengtian said again and again, I understand, I won't dare to do it again, I won't dare to do it again. At this moment, nothing was more important than one's life. His heart was filled with chilliness as he watched Long Fei approach, as if the god of death was approaching him with a sickle in his hand. His body couldn't stop trembling. Long Fei said lightly, later? Do you think you have a future? Wu Fengtian's body trembled as he said, No, you can't kill me. Lin Shuang'er and that little girl are still in my hands. Long Fei said, Are you still threatening me? Wu Fengtian's body trembled even more violently as he said, No, I don't dare. Master, exchange their lives for mine. As long as you agree, I will immediately have them released. Long Fei's eyes moved, and he said, Immediately get people to release them. Wu Fengtian said, Right, as long as you let me go. Long Fei said lightly, On account of how pitiful you are, I agree. While they were talking, Long Fei stopped. Wu Fengtian heaved a sigh of relief, his forehead was covered in cold sweat, he exhaled deeply and said, Thank you, master. Long Fei said, Let them go now. Wu Fengtian immediately said, Yes, I will immediately call for reinforcements. Butler. Wu Fengtian shouted a few times. An elderly quickly walked forward with a bow, not daring to look straight into Long Fei's eyes. When he walked to Long Fei's side, his legs were floating, as if he could die at any moment. Master, please instruct me. The old man's voice was dry as he spoke in a hurry. Wu Fengtian said, Go, go, release the two young misses from the secret room. The elder immediately said, All right, I will go now. With that, he turned and left. Long Fei said lightly, Wait. The old man's body shuddered, and he came to a stop. Wu Fengtian said, Master, I do not dare to play any tricks, they will soon appear in front of you, I swear. Long Fei said, That's good, this way I can let you travel safely. Wu Fengtian's gaze tensed up, and he roared, Little bastard, you bastard, didn't you say you'd let me go? You. Long Fei grinned and said, You believe in my words too? Is your brain filled with water? Anger flared in his eyes. A sword cut Wu Fengtian's neck, and blood spurted out. Wu Fengtian's eyes were wide open as he died with grievance. Long Fei looked at the shivering old man and asked, What are you still standing there for? Why aren't you letting them go? The old man instantly ran out, hating the fact that this old lady had given birth to less than 2 legs. Long Fei's eyes swept across them, and looked at the surrounding quiet grandstands. Long Fei laughed coldly, and said, Weren't you trying to kill me just now? Do you want me to die? Come. You want to kill my people, you want me to die. Now, I'll give all of you a chance. You can do it one by one, or you can do it in groups. His voice wasn't loud, but it resounded in everyone's mind. At the same time, everyone's heart trembled. Right now, no one dared to look at Long Fei because they were afraid that they would be stared at by his eyes. No one. Long Fei replied heavily. The entire auction didn't dare make a sound, all of their heads were lowered, and were crushed by Long Fei alone. Long Fei retracted his sword, and said coldly, Don't be cocky in the future, or else, you might even die one day. Not long later, the arena entrance opened. Hubby. He. She did not have the slightest feeling of being caught, and instead had a face full of happiness. She even laughed out loud when she saw Long Fei. He directly ran to Long Fei's side, jumped onto Long Fei's body in an instant, grabbed Long Fei's waist with both of his legs, and hung his hands around Long Fei's neck. Lin Shuang'er also walked forward and she said shyly, Thank you. It was also at this time Yang Dao's figure descended. Long Fei's talent, the sword techniques he released, as well as the powerful strength he released made Yang Dao excited. Long Fei's talent, the sword techniques he released, as well as the powerful strength he released made Yang Dao excited. Ancient world, anything is possible. Rank, realm, was only a way to measure strength. But not absolutely. The higher the level, the stronger it was. However, this did not mean that the lower the level, the weaker the person would be. This was the ancient world, a primal plane. It could produce countless different types of power, some of which had never been seen before. And those who had this kind of power were known as ancient elites. They are a special kind of group. If any ancient capable person were to win, they would eventually become an ancient almighty powerhouse. They would be ranked in the immortal class and become a super powerhouse among the divinity. Other than the ancient elites, there was another possibility. The ancient immortals of the divinity would not be able to break through to the ancient seal because they would be unable to cultivate their memories anew. This kind of person would definitely leave a strong foundation in his body to ensure that he wouldn't be killed while he was cultivating. No matter what it was, in the world of mortals in ancient world, they were all super monstrous existences. When encountering this kind of person, one would definitely not let them go. Even though Yang Dao was unable to confirm that Long Fei was one of the two, but Long Fei's talent told him that he was a rare talent, and must be brought into the ancient antiquity. Yang Dao looked at Long Fei and said, Little brother, maybe you will think that I am too troublesome, but no matter how serious I am, I will solemnly invite you to the ancient antiquity with me. He was extremely sincere. His eyes were filled with excitement, and a worry that Long Fei would reject him again. Phoenix asked first, Is ancient antiquity strong? Lin Shuang'er's voice trembled. She did not expect that the elder who beat up the ancient antiquity would actually extend an invitation to Long Fei in such a sincere manner. She seemed to be begging Long Fei, as she said, the strongest sect within a circumference of millions of kilometers, a being that looks like a giant. Her eyes were blazing with passion, and she almost agreed on Long Fei's behalf. For any martial artist, this was a rare opportunity. It was the dream of every cultivator in the Neon City. Phoenix's small eyes darted around. It's that strong. Since he's so strong, then it must be fun. Husband promises him. Without waiting for Long Fei to speak, Phoenix looked at Yang Dao and said, I made the decision on behalf of my husband and promised you. I will follow you to the ancient antiquity. Yang Dao smiled and looked at Long Fei. So what if the little girl agreed? What he wanted was Long Fei. Long Fei asked, Can I bring my relatives? Yang Dao's eyes were filled with excitement as he said, You can bring a servant to take care of him. Long Fei said, Just one? Yang Dao nodded, and said, I can't hide it from you. One person can only bring one servant, this is the sect's rule, and I can't change it. Long Fei couldn't help but look at Lin Shuang'er. Lin Shuang'er immediately said, Don't look at me, I don't want to go to ancient antiquity right now. I'm not ready yet, and I don't want you to bring me, I want to qualify through my own efforts. And I don't want to be your servant. Who doesn't want to go? Even being a servant in ancient antiquity was something that many people did not even dare think about. However, there was only one spot, and she could not let Phoenix stay. Yang Dao took out a small bottle from the space ring and said, There are 10 Da Yuan spirit pills here. With your current cultivation and talent, you will be able to break through to the 6th stage of Big Swordsman in at most 3 years. The first thing he did was to obtain the Great Yuan Spirit Pill. Everyone present was shocked. Lin Yuantu became even more excited. Even the S of the biggest families in the Neon City couldn't produce a single Great Yuan Spirit Pill, because Tenling Dan could make 10 powerhouse S. Long Fei looked at Lin Shuang'er and said, Then I'll wait for you at ancient antiquity first. Lin Shuang'er took the spirit pellet, stared at Long Fei, and said fiercely, Who wants you to wait, meet? After saying that, she daintily turned around and left. The moment she turned around, her tears fell. He bit his tongue to prevent himself from crying out loud. She had never thought that a man would kill for her, become enemies with the entire city, and go crazy for her. Her heart was subdued by Long Fei. Furthermore, the moment she saw Long Fei, she was attracted to him. He didn't know why. It was as if she couldn't control herself. Long Fei looked at Lin Shuang'er's receding figure, and did not say anything. He believed that Lin Shuang'er would definitely obtain the qualifications to participate in the next round. Phoenix muttered, Big Sister Shuang'er. She was very reluctant. Long Fei looked at Phoenix, and gently patted her head. He wanted to send Phoenix to Phoenix Valley, but where was Phoenix Valley? In the mortal world? Or was it in the world of divinity? What he needed to do now was not to search for some Phoenix Valley, but to protect the Phoenix. Those black-clothed powerhouses would definitely return to the Neon City to search, and he could not stay here for long. Ancient antiquity was a good choice. It was the same for Long Fei as well. He needed an even higher ground, and only then could he see much further. He wanted to find the Dragon Vein Mountain. He had to find the God-living mountain, find the Phoenix Valley. He wanted to find the Emperor Xian. And then, Long Fei looked at Yang Dao and said, All right, I agree. Yang Dao let out a long sigh of relief in his heart, and spoke with an excited expression on his face. Ha ha ha. I'm really afraid that you will not agree. Long Fei laughed. What if I don't agree? Yang Dao said, If you don't agree, I will kidnap you. You don't have any extra energy to release that kind of powerful energy, so I am confident in kidnapping you. If we can't kidnap him. He did not finish his sentence. Long Fei was not stupid, he knew what the rest of his words meant. If he allowed a future powerhouse to be lost, it would be better to kill him off. What made Long Fei shocked was that he had actually seen the power of the ancient dragon body on his own body. This world was much stronger than he had imagined. I wonder what level of existence Emperor Xian is at in the ancient world. Long Fei secretly clenched his fists. Before I meet you, I will do everything I can to become stronger. I will never let myself lose again, not even once. This was the ancient world, Long Fei could not afford to lose. Yang Dao smiled slightly, and said, I was just joking with you, don't be serious. All right, Now follow me. I still need to go pick up the other two people. Finished. Yang Dao summoned his right hand and a huge golden palm leaf fan flew out. Stepping on it, he said, "You guys come up too. If you use your feet to walk, I wonder how long it would take to reach ancient antiquity." Long Fei held the phoenix and stood on a palm leaf fan. The phoenix was not afraid, it had a calm expression, and only muttered, "Isn't this kind of flying treasure a little too weak?" To the phoenix, this kind of palm leaf fan flying magical equipment was not high enough. To the phoenix, this kind of palm leaf fan flying magical equipment was not high enough. But for Long Fei, it was different. The ancient world was much bigger than the universal realm. If he could get a flying treasure, it would be much more convenient, and he had to go to many places. There had to be a flying treasure. It was just that the feather god wings he brought from universal realm could not be used. "Let's go to Sea City to pick up two people first, then head there." Yang Dao said, "That kid from Sea City is also a fierce person. He might have the potential to become an ancient energy cultivator." Long Fei withdrew his train of thought and asked, "What is the potential of an ancient ability user?" Yang Dao laughed, "They are people who possess the special power of the ancient world. These people are called ancient elites, and once this power erupts, they might be able to become an ancient almighty powerhouse. They might even be able to obtain the divine realm. Someone who possesses a special ancient power. Then, do I count as an ancient capable person?" Long Fei asked. "His ancient dragon body is a special power? That's not it, is it?" Long Fei muttered in his heart, and said, "The strength in your body. I can't see through it either. If you were an ancient ability user, then logically speaking, your cultivation should not be so low. But, I've never seen that kind of power erupt from your body. To be able to kill someone above your cultivation level. That is truly amazing. How could anyone see through the power of the ancient dragon body?" Phoenix opened her small mouth, grabbed onto Long Fei's arm and said, of course my husband is good. Why don't you see who my husband is?" "Ha ha ha." Yang Dao laughed, and said, "Oh right, I still don't know what your names are." Just as Phoenix was about to speak, Long Fei took a step ahead and said, "I'm Long Fei, she's called Bing Bing." Phoenix mumbled but did not mind. Phoenix's identity could not be revealed. The name Phoenix alone could not be spoken. That night, the power the black-clothed man released was too strong. Long Fei could not understand it at all. The most important thing was that such a tragic battle had occurred, and with such a loud explosion of power, no one in Neon City knew what had happened, as if they were not in the same space. Long Fei wanted to protect this girl. He had to protect her well. In his heart, he always felt that this little girl was related to him in a very intimate way. "Right. Elder, you mentioned the divine space. What kind of space is that? Isn't the ancient world the most elite plane? Can it be that there is a more powerful plane up there?" This was the first time Long Fei had heard of the God realm when he had entered the ancient world. Yang Dao looked at the sky and said, "Ancient world is indeed a peak plane, and is divided into two dimensions within the ancient world. The first is the place we are currently at, which is also known as the mortal realm. The other is the divine space. They seem to be on the same plane, but they are two completely different worlds. The people in the divine space are all ancient almighty powerhouses, as well as those ancient races that have been here since the birth of the ancient world. In a space like the one we are currently in, it would be better said that we are from the mortal realm. In the eyes of the divine space, we are just a bunch of ants." "Hee hee." Yang Dao smiled bitterly, and said, "Don't be discouraged, even though we are ants, ants can still become gods. As long as your cultivation reaches the qualifications to enter the divine space, you can break through the shackles of the flying into the virtual and become a divine powerhouse of the ancient world." Phoenix muttered, "What's so good about being a god?" Yang Dao laughed and said, "Of course it's good for the overlord to increase his lifespan. What he cultivates is the purest power in the ancient world, becoming an ancient almighty powerhouse. He is the ruler, and after reaching the highest realm, he can even break through the void and enter the starry sky continent to roam the wider planes. This is every fighter's dream. A fighter's goal is to become stronger." He stepped over one obstacle after another, stepping onto the mountain peak after another. Brave hearts were fearless. When young Dao said these words, his eyes were also blazing with passion. Towards powerhouse. Long Fei only entered the ancient world to kill the Emperor Xian, and breaking through the ancient world was something that would happen in the future, so he was not too concerned about these things. Of course. In his heart, he yearned to become stronger than anyone else. Long Fei said, "Elder, you just said that the ancient natives were those ancient races that existed when the ancient world was born. What race do they have?" The most famous among them was the dragon clan of the Dragon Vein Mountain. They were once the hegemons of the ancient world, and with the dragon god's army, they could be said to be an existence that swept through everything. At that time, they were the unmatched absolute hegemons of the ancient world. It was rumored that the dragon race was exterminated, and even the Dragon King Mountain was destroyed. The dragon tribe is going downhill, and I think it won't be long before they disappear from ancient world. Long Fei frowned. Phoenix's brows knitted tightly as she clenched her fists. Her pupils were about to change. Long Fei felt the power of the phoenix undergo a change, and immediately grabbed her hand. Buzz. Boom. Rumble. The moment he held onto the phoenix's hand, Long Fei felt that the inside of the phoenix's body was like a battlefield, constantly releasing loud booms. The feeling was too strong. Long Fei was afraid that the phoenix would instantly turn into a phoenix, hence he said in a low voice, "Bing bing, bing bing." When the phoenix sensed Long Fei's voice, the anger in its heart slowly weakened. It looked at Long Fei with eyes filled with tears, and muttered with its mouth starting to cry. They felt extremely wronged. It was as if she had seen the destruction of the dragon race with her own eyes. And, in fact, she and Master Xian came from the Dragon Vein Mountain. However, she didn't say it because she couldn't say it. Long Fei lightly patted her shoulder and said, "It's fine, it's fine." Yang Dao said, "The strong preys on the weak, and the powerhouse is the king. This is the rule of survival in this world, whether it is in person or in a sect, it is the same for a clan. If you are not strong enough, you may be destroyed. Now that the dragon race has appeared, so has the phoenix race. Ancient Mu clan. Ancient clan extermination, Tang clan. Beast tribe. The heavenly capital tribe. The immortal cities clan. Time passes, time changes, no one can continue to flourish, there will always be a low point. As long as we can endure the low point, as long as we don't die, we will have a chance to make a comeback. So, life is very important." Yang Dao said. If there was no life, then there was nothing. As long as there was life, there were unlimited possibilities. Long Fei's heart quivered. Mother's family, father's family, the Phoenix family, Tang Long's family, the Senior Miez family are all existences that are on the verge of destruction. It seems like everything depends on me. Elder. Then which family is the strongest family in divinity? Yang Dao said, God's tribe. He is now the king of the ancient times, and calls himself the Emperor Xian. God's tribe. God's tribe. Long Fei frowned and thought in his heart, could it be that the shrine is only a part of the God's tribe? The branch of the universal realm? Emperor Xian arranged for descendant of God's tribe to enter the ancient world long ago. That's within reason. If I were a Emperor Xian, I wouldn't have arranged for all my clansmen to be stationed in a universal realm for the past billions of years. God's tribe. Long Fei clenched his teeth tightly. Yang Dao said, the name God's tribe was given by the Emperor Xian himself. Even though the other name is given to the God's tribes, there aren't many clan members there. However, the Emperor Xian was extremely strong, so it could be said that none of the ancient races in the ancient world were his match. It could be said that he was an existence that was invincible in the ancient clans, and that was also why. He was the one who established the God's tribe, otherwise how could the name God's tribe be created by him? Sigh. To say that these are things that we cannot reach, many of the things that I have said are just rumors, just treat it as a story. Yang Dao realized that Long Fei was extremely serious. Long Fei asked, then Emperor Xian should be the strongest person in ancient world? Even though the Emperor Xian was the king of the ancient times, it was hard to say if he was the strongest person in the ancient world. After all, this was the ancient world, and there were still many unknown places in this plane that had existed for tens of billions of years. These transmission even the powerhouses of the God realm did not dare to recklessly enter the forbidden grounds. No one knows what kind of powerhouses are inside. Kid, you must remember this. No one could be strong for a lifetime, and any legend would be broken. Facing the #1 hegemon of the ancient world, who was also the first patriarch of the dragon clan, Long Batian, was he awesome? He had truly swept ancient world away, but what happened in the end? He had fallen. The Emperor Xian was even worse than Long Batian. At the very least, the forbidden grounds that I mentioned earlier, which Long Batian had entered before, has not been accomplished by Emperor Xian. Yang Dao said. At the same time, he was also reminding and motivating Long Fei that there was nothing in this world that couldn't be surpassed. Long Fei nodded his head, I will remember, smiled faintly, and said, your talent is not bad. After entering ancient antiquity, I will recommend a good master to you. At that time, if you cultivate for 100 years, you might even reach the level of an almighty powerhouse. There is a possibility of you becoming an ascendant. An almighty powerhouse? Ascendant level divine space? It is also an incentive. How many have done it over the years? It was too difficult. Let alone 100 years, even if it were 1,000 years or 10,000 years, not many would be able to do it. But Long Fei was surprised in his heart. 100 years? I simply do not have that much time to waste. At most 10 years, within 10 years, I will definitely rush into the divine space. If anyone else were to hear this, they would probably laugh their teeth out. Becoming an almighty powerhouse in 10 years. It was simply a pipe dream. With the system, Long Fei was just a bug. Moreover, he was a maniac at cultivation, and even more so, a madman who did not care for his own life. At this time, Yang Dao pointed at a city that was built atop a tall mountain in the distance, stood up, and said, we are almost there. Beneath the mountain was a sea. It was so vast that it was connected to the sky in the distance. Yang Dao smiled slightly and said, the power that this guy is cultivating should be the power of some kind of hard stone, so his body is very strong. His cultivation is big swordsman, but even with the sword faction's peak strength, it's hard to harm him. Long Fei was shocked. That abnormal? A level 10 skill couldn't even break through the defenses? This was not abnormal. This was extremely abnormal. Moreover, if this was just defense, then what about his strength? In a game, this type of person could only be described by one profession, super tank. If you were to stand in front of him, you wouldn't be able to kill him no matter what. Yang Dao said, the other one is also more interesting. He is a cultivation ghost. What is cultivation ghost? Long Fei asked. Yang Dao smiled slightly and said, this person's brain is abnormally developed. We ordinary people have a brain, he has 4. And the brain is twice as developed as we are. Long Fei was stunned. 4 brains? And the brain is twice as developed as ours? Is he even human? Long Fei had always thought that he was abnormal enough, but now it seemed that his level of abnormal was not even worth mentioning in the ancient world. Yang Dao said, 4 brains are not strange, there are 8 more brains in the divine space, and all of them are 100% developed. Long Fei. What he saw in the Neon City felt that the things he came into contact with were similar to those in other planes. But now, it seemed that the Neon City was really too small. The ancient world was much fiercer than he imagined. Not to mention the 8 brains, the human brain development level on Earth was only a tiny bit. If it was 100%, then this person could even be called a god, an invincible and terrifying existence. Phoenix, who was at the side, had a disdainful look on her face. Yang Dao also did not pay too much attention to the Phoenix. The feeling Phoenix gave him was that of a mischievous little girl. He could see the special strength in Long Fei's body, but he could not see the power within the Phoenix's body. This was also because Phoenix had never fought before. Yang Dao looked at Long Fei in shock and said, there are people with all kinds of abilities in ancient world, and those who can enter the ancient antiquity are all a bit special. Long Fei felt as if he had entered a special ability world. Everyone had their own unique abilities. An inexplicable excitement rose in his heart. Because It must be amazing to be in such a world. Long Fei looked at Yang Dao and asked curiously, Elder, what is your special ability? Yang Dao gave a slight smile and said while trying to keep him in suspense, you'll know in the future, ha ha ha. He did not say it out loud. All right, let's go down. Yang Dao's chi moved, the fan flew toward Sea City. Phoenix, who was beside Long Fei, whispered, Hubby, do you want to know his capabilities? Long Fei turned his face to look at Phoenix. Phoenix giggled and said, I can help you. Long Fei shook his head, no need. He did not want Phoenix to use her power. The feeling the Phoenix gave Long Fei was that it possessed a formidable power. This kind of strength was something that even his ancient dragon body could not resist. The Phoenix had said that her memories had also been sealed by the seal. As long as she opened her memories, her strength would increase by leaps and bounds. Then again, Long Fei didn't want the Phoenix to reveal himself. He definitely would not allow the scene in the dream to happen again. Absolutely not. Sea City, Sea City's Lord's Mansion. Sea City, Sea City's Lord's Mansion. The empty martial arts arena continued to emit dull sounds of impact. Boom, boom, boom. The voice did not come from the martial arts arena, but from the other side of the training grounds. It came from under a cliff. A man who looked to be around 20 years old had thick chains coiled around his arms. The muscles on his entire body were knotted, and the veins looked like giant earthworms beneath his skin. Every inch of the muscles carried with it great power. It was like a volcano that could erupt at any time. He was nearly 3 meters tall and weighed more than 500 kilograms. Standing there, he looked like a piece of heavy granite. At this moment, his arms were wrapped with chains, and those thick chains extended to the bottom of the cliff. Just those chains alone weighed several tens of thousands of pounds, and he continued to wave his fists. Every time he swung his fist, the chain would tighten and a boom could be heard from the bottom of the cliff. Boom. His fist tore through the air and rumbled under the cliff. Bang, bang, bang. The man's eyes were extremely serious. Every punch would release all of the power in his body. He would form a group with his punches 100 times. After executing a set of punches, his gaze would involuntarily turn to another direction. Under a big tree in martial arts arena, a youth was half reclining under a tree, holding a dogtail grass in his mouth and crossing his legs. His face was covered by a straw hat, and it was unknown whether he was sleeping or thinking. Every time the sound of the collision stopped, he would lightly say, "Continue." The big man swung his fist again. Even though his entire body was drenched, he did not complain and just continued to wave his fists. One punch, one strike after another. Young master. His here. It's here, it's here. That elder from ancient antiquity is here. A servant ran into the training field and saw the big guy waving his fist. He exclaimed, "Foolish brother, your strength has increased again." Then, he ran to the edge of the cliff to take a look and said with even more shock, "Foolish brother, the deep-sea mysterious iron has already been pulled out of the water by you." The speed of his punches was slower by a second. The youth under the tree immediately asked, "Did you hear that?" The simple-minded person immediately said, "Sorry." He quickly waved it around, not daring to stay for even a second longer. The youth under the tree did not move. He still lazily leaned on the tree, as if he did not hear the servant's words. "Young master, why aren't you excited? The elders of the ancient antiquity have arrived. Master asked me to call you guys to the front courtyard." The young man bowed slightly and said indifferently, "It's done, why are you making such a big fuss over it? Didn't you want me to go to ancient antiquity? If I let him come here himself, I'd be too lazy to move." That person under his name said anxiously, "This is the order from the old master, he wants you to leave quickly." The young man replied impatiently, "I'm not going, so what if I'm at ancient antiquity? I'm not interested." Ancient antiquity was also a giant sect with a circumference of trillions of kilometers. It was extremely strong and was a place a warrior would dream of, but in his eyes, he did not want to go. Because he wasn't interested. He had to cultivate once he got to the ancient antiquity, missions, classes, there were all sorts of things going on, He did not want to be bothered by them. How good would it be to stay in the sea city? Eat as much as you want, sleep as much as you want. No one could stop him. Free and unfettered. Exhilarated. He had no interest in cultivation at all. To him, there was nothing that could not be solved with his brain. If one mind was insufficient, then 2, 3, 4. Ever since he was young, he had never encountered a situation that he could not resolve. In the sea city, no one dared to play with him. Even experts with a higher cultivation level wouldn't dare to play with him, because, while playing, he suddenly realized that he was about to be killed. Moreover, a monstrous genius like him could easily break through with just a little bit of effort. Not even a year from now would be able to match up to him. In the sea city, he was the biggest monster. He is also the city lord's youngest son, Bailey Tianhai. In the entire sea city, only someone as simple-minded as him could play with him. Of course, it wasn't that the simpleton was fighting with him, but rather that the simpleton could always be played by him without getting angry. No matter how he played with him, the simpleton was the type of existence that would not die. His skin was thick and rough, and he would not allow his sword to pierce through. He was also the second largest monster in the sea city. When Bailey II told his son to fish up the deep-sea dark iron from the cliff, he immediately called him Master Chun, and used this method to pull him out of the water. That piece of deep-sea mystical iron weighs 1,000,000 pounds. He was actually pulled out of the water like this. Young master, the old master said that if you don't go, then the great granny sighed. Bailey Tianhai's body quivered and bounced up. What does grandmother want to do? F***CK. Didn't you say earlier that it was grandmother's order? Why didn't you say so earlier? Bailey Tianhai wasn't afraid of anyone, he was only afraid of his grandmother, who doted on him dearly. Since he was young, he had no mother. His grandmother had brought him up, so he had always been obedient to her. If he disobeyed, then his grandmother would just cry, and he would be hanged. The key was, Bailey Tianhai couldn't win against his grandmother every time. Just as Bailey Tianhai was about to leave, a few people walked over from the entrance of the training grounds. Bailey Tianhai's expression retracted, and leaned onto the tree without interest. He bit his dogtail grass at the corner of his mouth and looked towards another place. Tianhai, why haven't you come to greet the elder? Bailey too replied heavily. Yang Dao looked at Bailey Tianhai who was beneath the tree and smiled faintly. It's all right, I'll go over. Bam! Bam! He punched twice more heavily. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice. Long Fei looked at the big idiot and his pupils tightened. What the F***K? The visual impact was too great. The simple-minded gave Long Fei the feeling of a heavy tank. The muscles on his body were too terrifying. Yang Dao's eyes flashed with a glint of light, and said, he should be an idiot, right? Bailey too said, yes, he is an idiot. Yang Dao nodded his head, and said, that's right, just as I expected, the talent that comes from possessing an ancient ability is within your body. Bailey too said in a low voice as well, Shuntian, hurry up and come greet the elders. The simple-minded person did not move and continued to wave his fist, saying, if the young master does not want to go, then neither will I. Bailey too's gaze tightened, he stared at Bailey Tianhai at the bottom of the tree, his head was on fire, and said, Tianhai, if you dare not go to ancient antiquity, do you believe that I won't break your legs? Bailey Tianhai said with a face full of disdain, Father, can you beat me in a match or not? And you still want to break my legs? Bailey too's eyes flashed with anger, you bastard, can't I take care of you? He was about to go berserk. Bailey Tianhai immediately said, I can go to ancient antiquity, but there has to be a place that I can cultivate in. If no one can teach me, then what's the point in going? Yang Dao smiled lightly and said, who can teach you? Bailey Tianhai said, of course it's people smarter than me. If you want a fool to teach me, then why would I go? As he spoke, he glanced at Long Fei who was beside Yang Dao, and the corner of his mouth lifted into a disdainful sneer, ancient antiquity only accepts idiots for a while. Bailey too let out a heavy cry, and said, little brat, your skin is itchy, right? With your 4 brains, who can match yours? Don't you want to go? Isn't it? Bailey too was furious. At this moment, Long Fei said faintly, "Are you very smart? Are you very smart? Are you very smart?" Long Fei took a step forward. Geniuses always had a bit of pride in themselves, not to mention this kind of genius with a demonic intelligence was even more conceited. From his eyes, it was easy to see that he really despised the people around him. Yang Dao looked at Long Fei, but did not stop him. Bailey Tianhai glanced at Long Fei and said, "He's smarter than you." Phoenix pouted her lips in displeasure. Long Fei still had a smile on his face, and said, "How about this, let's take a gamble." Bailey Tianhai said, "A bet. HMPH, do you think you've won?" Bailey Tianhai knew what kind of cultivation Long Fei had entered the training grounds. He knew all the sword techniques he trained in, and even knew all of his feet that stepped into the training grounds first. The four-brain genius had intelligence like a demon. However, none of these were where Bailey Tianhai was powerful. His strongest point lay in his observations and observations. TL, OMG 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 OMG, a hair-thin observation. He seemed to be acting casually and looking down on them, but in reality, he was controlling everything in his surroundings, including the flow of his breathing, his gaze, and even his heartbeat. Long Fei said, "Let's not talk about who wins, I just want to know if you dare." Bailey Tianhai's lips curved up as he laughed, "Are you trying to provoke me? However, your talent should not be able to help you cultivate. Otherwise, your cultivation would not be at the second stage of the apprentice, and your footsteps would be unstable, so even if you are at the second stage of the apprentice, your talent should still be decent. They shouldn't be unstable, so either there's a problem with your legs or you just entered the ancient world and aren't used to the gravity." Bailey Tianhai said in a neither hurried nor slow manner, "If that's the case, then your ancient inherent skill should be pretty good to be able to break through to apprentice in such a short period of time. However, this is the ancient world, your talent is far from enough." Yang Dao looked at Long Fei. Long Fei laughed, his expression did not change at all, and even the look in his eyes did not change, but his heart was filled with incomparable shock. "Damn, you can tell from my footsteps that I'm someone who just entered the ancient world. This fellow. If we expose too much, I think we can probably calculate the 18 generations of my ancestors." Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei's smile and said, "You're using a smile to conceal yourself, and your expression doesn't fluctuate at all. You're concealing it extremely well, and you shouldn't be the age that you look on the surface." Enemy. His analysis made it seem as though he had always been by Long Fei's side. Long Fei laughed, "This should be the first time we meet, right?" Bailey Tianhai laughed disdainfully, "So, you still want to bet with me? Do you think it would be useful for you to provoke me?" Long Fei said, "Since you know that I'm provoking you, then I want to provoke you for a bit. I'll ask you one question, if you answer it, I guarantee that Elder Yang will leave." Yang Dao was startled, and looked at Long Fei. Bailey too immediately said, "Tianhai, stop messing around. Regardless of whether or not you can learn anything in ancient antiquity, you must go. If you dare not go, don't blame me for letting your grandmother teach you a lesson." Bailey too was worried that Long Fei would lose. Because, since Bailey Tianhai was born, he had never lost. His intellect was a super-godlike existence. Bailey Tianhai said, "Even if you say it's useless, the elder has to agree." He really did not want to go to ancient antiquity. Yang Dao looked at Long Fei and paused for 2 seconds, then said, "All right, if you win, you can choose freely." Bailey Tianhai laughed, "It's a deal." Yang Dao replied, "I'll keep my word." Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei. His expression was incomparably arrogant, and he said madly, "No one can still trouble me, you're definitely going to lose." Bailey too knew his son's temperament. If he won, he would really not go to the ancient antiquity, and could not help but say to Long Fei, "There is no problem that would be difficult to get him to stay in. Astronomical geography, cultivation arrays, alchemy, refining, there is no problem that can stop him. Tianhai, if you dare not go, I'll flay you alive." Bailey Tianhai did not pay any attention to him, but looked at Long Fei and said, "I'm going to set the question." Very arrogant. Very arrogant. Yang Dao's brows also tightened, and said, His brain is way better than an ordinary person's. Bailey Tianhai's display of intelligence made Yang Dao extremely interested in him. If a monstrous genius like this were to enter the ancient antiquity, he would definitely cause a ruckus. Whether it was for cultivation or for the various scriptures and pavilions, such a genius was needed. He was worried that Long Fei would lose. Not only him and Bailey too, even the foolishness at the side thought that Long Fei would lose. He had yet to see anyone who could defeat Bailey Tianhai, and the entire Sea City was completely played with by him. Other than his great-grandmother, there was not a single person who was not afraid of Bailey Tianhai. Long Fei laughed and said, "Don't worry. No matter how strong the four-brain genius is, it is useless in front of me." Long Fei walked in front of Bailey Tianhai, and said indifferently, "Listen carefully." Bailey Tianhai laughed in disdain. Suddenly, Long Fei pointed at the phoenix beside Yang Dao, and asked with a serious expression, "What is her name?" Bailey Tianhai's eyes darkened as he looked at Long Fei in a daze. He shifted his gaze from Long Fei's body to Phoenix's. He was dumbfounded on the spot. Not only him, Yang Dao, Bailey too were also the same, they were all dumbstruck. Was there such an operation? He didn't understand at all. The simple-minded man was also stunned. Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei, then looked at Phoenix. He could not answer. No matter how good one's brain was, how meticulous one's thoughts were, how detailed one's observation was, however, even if he wanted to blow up all four of his brains, he would not be able to think of this question. Long Fei smiled faintly, and said, "Aren't you very arrogant? Isn't there no problem with getting you? Please answer now." He did not give the least bit of face as he mocked ferociously. Bailey Tianhai's face turned green. Very ugly. He had never thought that Long Fei would ask such a question, nor did he ever meet such a person. This was completely illogical. But he accepted the bet, and he did not limit the scope of the problem. It was because he was conceited, because he was arrogant, and because he believed that there were no problems with him. Now, he knew he had gone too far. After a long time, Bailey Tianhai heaved a sigh of relief. Although he was unwilling, he was willing to admit defeat. He wouldn't give up just because of this reason. He said, "I lost." These 3 words weighed 1,000 pounds. If not for hearing it with his own ears, Bailey too would not even believe that his son would say these words. Big Idiot stood there without moving as he mumbled, "Is there anyone more amazing than young Master Tianhai?" Long Fei laughed. This question came up too inexplicably. Bailey Tianhai said, "No, I am being conceited." And then, Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei seriously, and then looked at Yang Dao, and said, "I'll go with you." When he finished speaking, he looked at Da Han and said heavily, "What are you still standing there for? Quickly pack up and go to ancient antiquity." Big Sis muttered. She walked to Bailey Tianhai's side and asked softly, "Brother Hai, do you want me to compete with him to get back at you?" The silly words made Bailey Tianhai pause for a moment. The silly words made Bailey Tianhai pause for a moment. Yang Dao couldn't help but look at Long Fei. The 4 brain demons had all been solved by Long Fei, then what about this simple-minded man with brute force? Yang Dao was still a little expectant in his heart. Because Long Fei had exceeded his expectations time and time again. It was true when they were on the Neon City's fighting stage, and it was also true when they were facing Bailey Tianhai. Who would have thought that he would give such a simple answer, but one that no one could answer? Let alone Bailey Tianhai, even he himself was confused by Long Fei. The problem was simple, but it was also a killing move. This was the true meaning of a smart person. However, this time, he was facing a person with an extremely strong body who was born to be a fool. How was he going to deal with this? Long Fei looked at Da Xia. His muscles were knotted, just like a piece of hard granite. Moreover, judging from his expression, he was the type of person who was the hardest to deal with. However, Bailey Tianhai smacked Da Han's head and said, "I've already lost, and you still want to win? What? Do you want to defeat him and prove that you are stronger than me? Save it." A sudden change. Bailey Tianhai turned his head and walked towards the exit of the training grounds. He said lightly, "Go and pack up your things." The The simple-minded man lowered his head and said, "Oh, there were no complaints, nor were there any complaints." He was like an old bull. Bailey too let out a heavy sigh of relief in his heart, and said, "This kid." Entering ancient antiquity was a huge matter, and he had great influence on it. He was afraid that his son would not want to go, so it was good. A problem was solved. Bailey too looked at Long Fei, and said, "Little brother, thank you." He never thought that Long Fei would ask such a strange question. Long Fei said, "No need to thank me, he actually made his own decision a long time ago." It was obvious. Bailey Tianhai had been waiting. Long Fei could tell from his eyes that he had been waiting for Yang Dao's arrival the entire time. Just like him, there were too few things he had seen in the Neon City, and it was the same for the Sea City. In the entire Sea City, no one could surpass him. The city meant nothing to him. In his heart, he wanted to leave. He wanted to go to a more spacious area. He wanted to meet an even stronger opponent. Bailey too was slightly stunned. Yang Dao smiled slightly. At this time, Long Fei walked towards the chains that Big Sis had left behind. Looking at the thick chains on the ground, his brows secretly tightened as he walked along the chains to the edge of the cliff. Beneath the chain was a piece of black iron that was full of rust. More than £1 million. Bailey too said, "This deep-sea mystical iron was salvaged from very far away, and since we can't get it out, we can only grind it here. But, I never thought that this simpleton had already pulled it here. His strength is truly terrifying." Beneath the cliff was a deep, long drag mark that was a few meters deep. One could imagine his strength. Long Fei's heart trembled. This power. Yang Dao smiled faintly, and said, "His talent should be the first one to awaken among you all, and also the best in terms of cultivation." There was only one way of thinking about something big and innocent. In his world, there was no shortcut for his cultivation. It was to train arduously, train to death, and with Bailey Tianhai's guidance, he worked even harder. The moment he saw Master Shuang, Long Fei immediately thought of Li Yuanba. Just like Master, Li Yuanba had innate divine strength. However, that time, after the gods' design Attic Li Yuanba and the foreign demons attacked into another space, they never appeared again. At that time, 3 of them appeared in 8 King Kong. In other words, there were 5 Vajra that had yet to awaken in ancient world. "Elder, the sea breeze is too strong, let's go to the mansion first." Bailey too smiled slightly. Yang Dao nodded and said, "En." At this moment, Bailey too looked at Long Fei. Phoenix suddenly transmitted to Long Fei, "There's something inside this deep-sea mysterious iron." Huh? Long Fei was secretly shocked as he asked Bailey too, "Master, what do you plan to do with this deep-sea mysterious black iron?" Bailey too laughed bitterly and said, "I had originally planned to break this piece of deep-sea mysterious iron into pieces and sell it. However, I never thought that this piece of black iron would be so rusty that it wouldn't even meet the requirements to be used in refining, let alone sell it. I saw that Tianhai doing nothing at all every day, so I asked him to fish up dark steel." Bailey too was very vexed over this piece of deep-sea dark iron. There was no place to put such a huge piece of black iron. Furthermore, it took a lot of effort to salvage the metal, so it never thought of salvaging a piece of scrap. Long Fei said, "I want to try refining recently, can I get some black iron as materials?" Bailey too immediately said, "You need materials to forge equipment. My residence has high-quality deep-sea mysterious iron, you can take as many as you want." Long Fei was someone who wanted to enter the ancient antiquity, so he was in no hurry to deal with such a person. Moreover, Long Fei had beaten his son, and helped him settle a huge problem. Long Fei wanted something, so he would naturally not be stingy. Long Fei didn't know what was inside the profound iron the Phoenix mentioned, but something that the Phoenix had taken a liking to must be not bad, and said, "I am unable to forge high-grade profound iron, so I don't want to waste it. I don't know if I am suitable for smithing, I just want to give it a try." Yang Dao said, "Let him handle it alone. City Lord Bailey, let's go drink some tea." Bailey too no longer said anything, and said, "All right, little brother, if you need any help, feel free to say it." Long Fei hugged his hands and said, "Thank you, Master. Only Long Fei and Phoenix were left in the training grounds. Long Fei immediately asked, "What's inside this black iron?" Phoenix pouted and thought for a moment. "I don't know, but it should be something good. My treasure detector just detected it." "Treasure detector?" Long Fei was startled. The Phoenix took out a disc-like object that was glowing with a faint light. There was also a needle which was pointing at the piece of rusted black iron. Phoenix giggled and said, "I stole it from my aunt. She was used to find things to play with, and when I sensed it flashing a moment ago, I remembered that there was a treasure detector on my body." Long Fei looked at the plate of treasure detector and checked the system. Looking at the number detected by the system, Long Fei secretly clicked his tongue. "My God! Ancient holy artifact. Ancestor of the treasure hunt. With this, it's impossible to find such a treasure." Item, treasure detector rank, holy artifact range, 1 kilometer description. The treasure detector is made from an ancient heavenly stone and possesses an extremely strong sense for treasures. Anyone who has reached a certain level of cultivation can sense it from within their body, on top of their body, in their cave, or even on top of their rock. Only when one reaches the level of being able to sense it, then what is the thing inside this black iron? Long Fei was a little impatient. He immediately said, "Let's go down and take a look." Quickly walking down the cliff from the other side of the martial arts arena, Long Fei stood at the edge of the ocean and looked at the enormous piece of rusted black iron. Quickly walking down the cliff from the other side of the martial arts arena, Long Fei stood at the edge of the ocean and looked at the enormous piece of rusted black iron. There were all kinds of small shells connected to it. If it wasn't for the rust, she wouldn't have thought it was a piece of black iron. Long Fei stood under the gigantic piece of profound iron, looked at the Phoenix, and asked, "Did you lock in the position?" Phoenix shook her head and said, "Treasure detector can only lock onto the correct location and cannot pinpoint the correct location. Wait for the next time I find someone to help it level up." "I can still level up?" Long Fei said in shock. Phoenix said, "Of course you can. Ancient world has many divine treasure masters. These people are all specially given to divine treasures to level up. It's just that my treasure detector's grade is a little high. Ordinary divine treasure masters cannot get it. When I return to Phoenix Valley, let Aunt find someone to help me." After saying that, Phoenix's eyes dimmed and her expression tensed up. Long Fei knew that she was thinking of the Master Xian and the Phoenix Valley, and he thought to himself, "Don't worry, I will definitely bring you back." At the same time, Long Fei changed the topic and said, "Let's quickly find them." Phoenix was very interested in finding treasures. She immediately forgot her worries and nodded. En. The two began to search separately. From the top of the giant black iron tower, only one side could be seen. One couldn't tell its appearance, plus, half of it was still submerged in the seawater. One couldn't tell what exactly it was. However, Long Fei walked around the black iron and found that this giant black iron was like a giant anchor, a three-pronged anchor. If it really is an anchor, then how big is this ship? If the anchor alone weighed 1,000,000 pounds, then the size of the ship. It was hard to imagine. At least, Long Fei couldn't imagine it. What is such a ship for? Noah's Ark? Used to escape from tribulation? Long Fei could not help but think of his previous life's sci-fi film Doomsday Equals. Who cares what it is used for? Who the hell cares? I'm here for a treasure. Calm your mind, search every corner carefully. Phoenix was holding onto a treasure detector on the other side. It was clearly here. Why couldn't we find it? This broken treasure detector, if it knew earlier, it wouldn't have brought you out. The treasure detector could only determine the approximate location, but it was unable to determine the exact location. Phoenix did not have much patience. "Humph. It's no use calling you, it's no use." Phoenix directly smashed the profound iron with the treasure detector. If someone were to see her using the holy artifact like this, they would probably be an idiot. "What a lousy piece of *T, I won't bring you out next time." Humph. He angrily smashed the treasure detector onto the black iron, both hands on his waist, with an unhappy expression on his face. The treasure detector landed in the crack below the black iron. If it could speak, it would say, "Who did I offend?" Long Fei walked back. Seeing Phoenix's furious look, he smiled and said, "It's treasure seeking, so you should at least be a bit patient." Seeing the treasure detector deflated, Long Fei said, "A single holy artifact smashed into your hand just like that. If people knew about this, I'm afraid they would have been angered to death by you. Let alone the Sea City, even the ancient antiquity did not have a holy artifact of this level. Smash it like this. Use it as a hammer." This was what a phoenix was. If one were to place someone else's words in their bosom, they would only hold them in their arms, afraid of breaking them. Long Fei bent down to pick it up. When he picked it up, he looked up and saw a very special place. It looked like a piece of amber. The orange amber looked like there was a small animal inside. It was very minute, and could not recognize what it was. Long Fei was secretly shocked. This is it. There was nothing special about this piece of black iron except for this one. There must be something strange. Long Fei picked up the treasure detector, and at the same time, pushed his hand towards the amber, wanting to pin it down. The moment his hand touched amber, his spiritual force seemed to have been drained. He directly entered another space, a huge technological space. Why did they say that he was in the technological space? Because there were all kinds of electronic equipment inside. The otherworldly world was forged with the ancient martial arts training, and thus there was no technological equipment. However, all of the equipment here was the technological equipment of a super trap. These technological equipment, all kinds of equipment, seemed to be in the seal stage. Long Fei could only see their electronic equipment. There were also boxes for various weapons. The box also had an electronic lock on it, so it couldn't be opened at all. Long Fei could not tell what they were doing. However, this special space was extremely large. It looked like a large cabin. Right at this moment, Long Fei saw something that made him incomparably excited. Computer. Ha ha ha. There's actually a computer. Oh my god. How many years has it been since I've seen a computer? Long Fei almost drooled. Although this was a mental space, Long Fei could truly feel the existence of a computer in front of him. It was at least 10 times bigger than a desktop. Wow, computer. Could it be that the heavens know that my days in this world are a bit boring, so they want to give me a computer that can play games? No need to say anything, let this old man have a good time first. Long Fei found the power button and pressed it heavily. He was extremely excited in his heart. Computer, there's a computer now, ha ha ha. Lousy can also play online games in a foreign world. Even if it's not a game, I can still enjoy solo gaming. Long Fei looked forward to it. The giant computer started up and a string of codes appeared on the screen. It was a code that Long Fei could not understand at all. He wasn't familiar with programming, but he could guarantee that this wasn't the kind of code that existed on Earth, because he didn't recognize any of the code. Alien product. Fuck, who cares what it is? As long as it's a computer, as long as I can play games, Long Fei no longer had any pursuits. The computer started up extremely quickly. It was at least 1,000 times faster than the computers in his dog kennel on Earth, and it had only been a little more than a second since he pressed the power switch. The screen appeared. Startup success. I can enjoy myself first. Long Fei looked at the icons on the table. His eyes were startled. Damn, why do I not recognize the codes, but do I know all the words under the icons on the table? My computer. Recycle bin. Future player. My file. Same as the computers on Earth. However, the surface of this giant display screen was full of items, and the sight of it would make one's scalp tingle. What future technology? In terms of the power of the black hole in space. 4-dimensional space. The creation of heaven and earth. The blueprint for the god-slaughtering spear. Long Fei went to look for them one by one, and he felt very depressed. Your sister, what kind of rubbish is this? Where is the game that Lousy wants? A game. What I want is a game. A game. What I want is a game. Can't you still have a good time? Long Fei was furious. Right now, he was just a youth addicted to the internet. Furthermore, he was one of those people who had been deeply poisoned. He just wanted to have a good time, but there was not a single game on the table. Long Fei did not give up, There's no such thing as an online game, there's definitely a game in a single computer. I don't believe that there's no game in a single computer. What kind of computer is a game? After looking around, Long Fei realized that not only was there no online game, there wasn't even a single computer game in the game. Not even a minesweeper, not even a card game. Damn you. As Long Fei spoke, he wanted to smash the computer. To him, a computer without a game was no different from a piece of scrap. Immediately, Long Fei lost interest in the computer. Holy **T. I thought you were blessed by the heavens to give me a computer to play games. I didn't expect you to not even have hammer game. Long Fei disdained her as she turned around to leave. But at this moment, catcher, catcher, buzz buzz buzz. A series of electronic sounds rang. A screen appeared on the computer. It was like a paradise on Earth. A giant ship was cruising in the starry sky, with people of all kinds on board. Dressed differently. There were also many races on it. There were even beasts, but they were all very harmonious. It was peaceful. After a short half a minute, they suddenly heard a sharp cry, "Ah!" In another place. A huge meteor ball. To be exact, it should be a dead star plane, directly smashing towards the giant ship. The speed was indescribably fast. However, a person on the giant ship suddenly flew out. With a flip of his right hand, a long blade appeared. He slightly gathered his strength and slashed out. Boom. The entire Dead Star plane was divided into two. Holy **T. Long Fei looked at the scene in shock. This is too awesome, isn't it? A single saber strike to break through the plane? A single slash had split a plane into two. How powerful was this power? Long Fei was so shocked that she couldn't speak. He believed that there was a powerhouse in the universe who could break through planes with one punch, but he never thought that one strike could break through dimensions and this kind of abnormality would appear on the screen in front of him. The man smiled, looked at the separated plane and was about to put away his long sword. Suddenly, the space between his eyebrows tightened. At the same time, Long Fei's brows also tightened up at the same time. I'll go. Did this **K encounter a plane swarm? A string of dead stars faced the giant ship, each of them carrying a powerful destructive force. The man's right hand gripped the long saber tightly. His gaze darkened as he suddenly flew away. That blade technique. It could be described as shocking the world and crying the ghosts and gods. He was completely from another two levels of existence. When Long Fei's eyes exploded, he could not even see the image of the man's sword skills clearly. Not only was it fast, the explosive power he unleashed also seemed to carry the power of the entire wild universe. With a single chop of the blade, the Dead Star plane shattered. Another stab. One slash. To pave the way for the great ship. It was a stunning comparison. Even Long Fei was deeply captivated by this scene. However, he was just one of the guards on the ship. Standing on the bow of the ship was a row of people who wore exactly the same clothes as him. Just like a royal guard. It was an awe-inspiring scene. The man in front of the giant ship continuously used slay, and the entire group of Dead Star realms were smashed into pieces by him. Those Dead Star realms were like radish cabbages, not enough for him to cut. The tourists on the ship applauded. Suddenly, boom! With an explosive sound, that man in the middle of the Dead Star cluster suddenly fell down from the distance. Upon seeing this, the guards on the bow all rushed out without a word. Bang, bang, bang. In less than half a second, all of them fell. Woo! An incomparably muffled roar rang out. All of a sudden, the resplendent stars were blocked and a huge palm slammed down. That scene was really one that could crush the heavens. From the side of the ship, an old man flew out. He was covered in white bones, white hair, and a white beard. He held a horsetail whisk in his hand like a celestial being. He blocked the attack with a palm strike. Boom! A powerful force exploded and repelled the huge black palm. The shockwave caused the dead stars to shatter into fine powder. How fierce was this power? The elder waved his whisk and said in a heavy voice, "Who is it?" Woo-ah-ha-ha-ha. A loud laugh echoed from the darkness. "Hand over the item and I'll spare your lives." The old man's eyes became vicious as he shouted, "Impudent!" The person in the darkness was also furious. "Meech, you reckless fool!" He exploded forth with his strength. Buzz! A huge black fist directly flew out from the bottom of the ship. Another few elders flew out to heavily block the attack. But, unable to resist, the elders were all sent flying by the powerful force. Each one of them spat out a mouthful of blood with pale faces. The old man holding the horsetail whisk tightened his gaze. The horsetail whisk turned into a flying immortal equipment, carrying him into the darkness. Rays of golden light burst forth from his body as he formed a seal with his hands and muttered an incantation. All of a sudden, his body seemed to have turned into the sun, illuminating the darkness. On the computer screen, there was a picture of Shuanar Bai, and in the middle of it all, Long Fei could vaguely see a person. It was more accurate to call him a monster, because there can't be that many people. No matter how big a person was, no giant would be as big as a plane. But the monster on the screen was at least 10 dimensions in size. If it wasn't a monster, then what was it? Long Fei's entire being was in a bad situation. It was also at this time. Boom! The horsetail whisk old man fell down. After smashing through the warship also began to split apart. Suddenly, the old man appeared in front of the screen. "Protect it, protect it. It is the only way to fight against the undying emperor. Protect it, you have to protect it. There are technologies from every plane and advanced martial arts from every plane. You can train in them and use them, but you have to protect them well. I must." Before he could finish his words, the huge sword shattered into pieces and scattered in all directions. It fell into various planes. When the video stopped and he returned to the computer desk, Long Fei was in a bit of a daze. "Damn, this is the real F***king fight between gods. I can't believe he's this strong. This is outrageous. This computer turns out to have all sorts of advanced technology. Also advanced martial arts. Wow. I'm rich. Long Fei was about to drool, but suddenly his eyes tensed up. "Wait. I almost forgot about the most important matter. This is a computer, a man's computer. Then shouldn't there be some action movies stored somewhere? Heh. Second deficit, minute 5. A computer that didn't even have a game. It was even more impossible to make it have any love movies. A computer that didn't even have a game. It was even more impossible to make it have any love movies. Long Fei tried to look for it, but he was unable to find anything. It was very depressing. I wonder who left this computer here. Isn't it too boring? What the heck is this? No games, no action films. Sigh. This was the first time Long Fei felt that he was so close to a computer, but in the end, it was still useless. To him, a computer without a game was no better than a piece of scrap metal. It was also at this time he subconsciously heard Phoenix's cry. "Hubby. What's the matter with you? Are you okay?" Long Fei kept the idea and looked at the various documents on the table. He clicked open. There were dozens of cultivation techniques written on it. Long Fei did not have much time to think. Let's take a look at the superpower boxing. He chose one, and then the words on the document started to move like ants, quickly crawling into Long Fei's mind. A series of words appeared in his mind. All sorts of important steps. The system suddenly beeped. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining superpower boxing. Do you wish to cultivate it? Damn. It's that simple. Long Fei was shocked. Isn't this technology way too advanced? Just choose and stuff it into your head. It's like killing a boss and dropping a piece of equipment. It's so simple that it's a complete mess. The advanced level of this technology is simply unimaginable. What kind of ancient technology and martial arts exist in this world? It was like playing a game. Training skills? He clicked on the skill book. I learned it right away. This kind of operation caused Long Fei's heart to tremble. He thought about the system in his mind and immediately thought, could it be that the system in my mind is from this technology plane? It was Long Fei's first time coming into contact with a technology from another world, and the advanced level of technology was far beyond his imagination. If it really is on the same plane, then… Long Fei exhaled deeply in his heart. He had always wanted to figure out the system in his mind, and he needed to do so as well. Otherwise, he would never be at ease for the rest of his life. Ding. System prompt: do you wish to cultivate? The system was still waiting for Long Fei's orders. Cultivate. Long Fei moved. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for successfully cultivating super power boxing. Ding. System notification: the compatibility between a player and the super power boxing is 80%. There is also a degree of compatibility. 80% compatibility means that I can only bring out the power of the super power boxing to the 8th level. It seems like this fist technique is not perfect enough for me. Long Fei mumbled. What he did not know was that to be able to achieve a compatibility rating of 80% was already an extremely high level. The power displayed was not 80%, but 8 times. A perfect combination of 100% power was even more terrifying. Long Fei did not understand any of this. He also needed a cultivation technique, so he didn't think too much about it. Moreover, there were many kinds of advanced martial arts in this spiritual space, so there was no need to worry. Get out first. Long Fei withdrew his mind energy and returned it back into his body. Phew. Phoenix, who was outside, shouted loudly. Long Fei immediately replied, I'm fine, she said. In the future, I will no longer throw a tantrum. I will no longer throw anything around. Woo! Long Fei, being unable to move beneath the anchor, made the phoenix jump in fright. In her heart, Long Fei seemed to be his only family. Since her grandfather was dead, she did not want to lose anyone by her side. Moreover, she felt that Long Fei was the person her aunt was looking for. She didn't know why it was Long Fei, but she felt that this man had a lot to do with her. Long Fei still had one hand on the amber, and looked at it as he tried to pull it apart. Crack. Amber fell off. Long Fei returned to the space ring S. It was also at this time. The light on the treasure detector stopped flickering, and slowly dimmed. Long Fei thought to himself, as expected, it's this piece of amber. A small piece of amber actually hides a world of technology. When I have time, I might be able to find out where the technology came from. Maybe the system is. Long Fei secretly clenched his fists. The current system was different from the previous system. In the past, the system was monitoring his every move and was making things difficult for him. Now, the system could be considered more human-like, and there was even a system girl. It was an entirely intellectual brain, and the feeling it gave Long Fei was one that surpassed all forms of control, an existence that had its own independent consciousness. Even if it did not harm Long Fei, he had to understand. Suddenly, Hualala. After the amber was picked out by Long Fei, the gigantic anchor suddenly moved, and instantly sank down, pressing onto Long Fei's shoulder. Boom! Long Fei's body instantly bent under the pressure. In that moment, Long Fei felt as if he was going to die. Ah! Phoenix let out a terrified cry. Hubby. Her pupils changed into the pupils of a phoenix. Moreover, phoenix feathers grew from her forehead and were about to change shape. The veins on Long Fei's forehead were trembling. Seeing that the phoenix was about to transform, he immediately said, Bing Bing, don't be rash, stay calm. Once Phoenix went berserk, she would lose control of her body. The Neon City was 1,000,000 kilometers away from here, but those black-clad experts were no ordinary people. That would be dangerous. You idiot. Quick, save them. On the cliff, Bailey Tianhai said heavily. The big guy didn't say anything. He rolled up his right arm and grabbed the chain. Then, he forcefully pulled it. Ah! It let out a roar. The anchor stopped a little. Long Fei gasped for breath heavily, his body bending slightly, wanting to take the chance to run out. But right at this moment. Boom! The anchor sank again. Young master, this anchor has become heavier. Ah! With an explosive sound, he pulled the chain up to his waist. At this time, it was as if the muscles on his body were about to burst apart. Releasing his divine power, he dug his legs into the ground. His body leaned backwards as he grabbed onto his mission. Normally, he wouldn't have needed to use so much strength. But now, the weight of the anchor continued to increase. It was like a dead man, and no matter how much you tried to save him, the other sickle of the god of death was just about to drag him into hell. At this moment, the anchor was the dead man, and at the other end was death. Bailey Tianhai frowned. He immediately ran down the chain. After landing on the ground, with both hands on the anchor, he faced Long Fei, who was below the anchor, and said, "Quick!" Long Fei charged forward with all his might. Bam! Bam! He charged out with all his might. The anchor slid down heavily. If he did not rush out this time, Long Fei would probably be crushed into meat paste. The ground sank and the entire beach sank. How heavy was this? Long Fei secretly heaved a sigh of relief, and said to Bailey Tianhai, "Many thanks." Bailey Tianhai looked indifferent, and said, "No need to thank me, you are a good opponent, I just don't want to be so bored inside the ancient antiquity." At this moment, Bailey Tianhai's gaze tightened. Crap! He looked towards the top of the cliff. His hair was tied up and he was still struggling to hold on. Moreover, the chain was tied around his waist. If he didn't remove it in time, his waist would be cut off. "You idiot!" Bailey Tianhai replied heavily. It seemed like he did not care much for the innocent, and had ordered them around like a servant. However, in Sea City, he was just an innocent friend. The simple-minded man's face was red and his entire body was black. His waist was constantly being constricted. Now, he could not even breathe. He could only use all of his strength and tightly clench his fists. If it wasn't for his innate divine strength, if it wasn't for the talent of an ancient ability user, his body would have probably been split in half long ago. But even so, the only thing he could do now was to forcefully pull the chain, but he was unable to undo the chain at his waist. The anchor grew heavier. As it slid into the sea, its weight kept increasing. Bailey Tianhai thought anxiously. However, no matter how smart and intelligent he was, there was nothing he could do at a time like this. If he jumped down, he would be cut in half. Who? Long Fei's heart sank. Ancient dragon body. The aura on his body suddenly changed. With both hands, he pulled on the chain. Ah! With a fierce roar, the clothes on his shoulder were immediately torn apart by Long Fei's muscles. Bailey Tianhai was shocked. What astonishing power! Long Fei said strenuously, "Be quick with your words." Even if he used the power of the ancient dragon body, but he felt that this anchor wasn't falling down at all, but was instead being sucked in by a powerful force. This power. It should be that destructive power. Long Fei took the amber, and the anchor was about to be destroyed. It exists just to get people to find amber. Now that amber had it, it had to be destroyed. No one could stop him. This was also the reason why Long Fei's ancient dragon body could not be stopped. Bailey Tianhai immediately shouted, "You idiot, jump down." Now that Long Fei had pulled him, Big Sis jumped down from the high ground and took advantage of the situation to untie the chain. This was the only way. He didn't think too much about it. He did not need to bring a brain with Bailey Tianhai. He jumped down from the cliff with the intention of unlocking the shackles in the air. However, the anchor was getting heavier, and so was the chain. When Da-Han jumped up into the air, the chain sank down and he fell down. He had no time to undo the chain. Bam! He hit the ground heavily. His big, silly body jolted. It crashed to the ground. And at the same time he jumped down, the anchor increased even more. Long Fei was simply unable to grab hold of it. The chain slashed across his palm. His palms were lacerated. This made Long Fei feel extremely unhappy. Bailey Tianhai's eyes tensed up, and anxiously ran forward. The simple-minded man waved his hand and said, I'm fine. Holy **T, is that abnormal? Long Fei was greatly shocked in his heart. If this was anyone else, they would have already been dead. This guy. Unexpectedly, nothing had happened. A natural tank. The skin and flesh of his body is probably even stronger than the defense of those divine beastess, right? Long Fei's blood started to boil. If a tank like this was able to block out damage in the game, The damage output would be too great and he wouldn't have to worry about that at all. What was a talent? Such a tank was a talent. Dan struggled to get up and said, "The chain is getting heavier. What's going on?" It was the same as before. The simple-minded couldn't move at all. "Damn you." Long Fei replied heavily, "I am not going to go crazy. Do you think I am a sick cat?" The idea sank. Long Fei said to Daji, "Hold on, I'm going to break this chain." Breaking the chains was the only way. If they did not break the anchor, then the ship's anchor would destroy him along with the ship. Bailey Tianhai was startled. "You want to break the chains? This chain is made of black iron, and it's not just normal black iron. Even the best blacksmith in Sea City cannot forge it." It looked rusty, but its material was beyond ordinary black iron. Bailey too didn't know, but he understood clearly in his heart. He had studied this chain before. Normal blacksmiths wouldn't be able to forge it. It was good to grill it with flames. Even a heavy hammer wouldn't do. There was no end to it. Now, Long Fei wanted to use his hands to blast it apart? This was impossible. At least, Bailey Tianhai thought that it was impossible. Since he was a four-brain genius, he already thought it was impossible. That Long Fei didn't have any hope at all. However, Long Fei had only voiced out his thoughts. He did not want to get Bailey Tianhai's consent because there was simply too late. Huff! Long Fei suddenly retreated half a step, gently exhaled, and sank into his horse's stance. At this moment, the key details of the superpower boxing kept popping up in his mind, and he paid attention to every single detail. Glancing at the stubborn and foolish girl, Long Fei shouted, "I'm going to punch." Bailey Tianhai's gaze tensed up. Superpower boxing. Long Fei roared in his heart, and threw out a punch. Buzz. Rumble. The fist landed on the chain, causing it to sink and bend down. The entire chain shook and the simpleton fell to the ground. The chain fell down even faster and crazily into the sea. Bailey Tianhai's gaze tensed up. He was scared stiff by Long Fei's power. Such a thick chain was actually bent by the explosion. It had to be known that he had tried many different methods, but to actually break it with a single punch, this was a huge blow to his heart. Interesting. Bailey Tianhai was not depressed by this kind of blow. Instead, he became even more excited. Long Fei's heart tensed up. Similarly, he was also shocked by the power of the superpower boxing. Damn. So fierce. What a profound martial art. I did not use the power of the ancient dragon body just now. Long Fei exhaled, another punch. There was no time. The chain kept dragging down, not delaying even a second. Ancient dragon body. Buzz. Strength King. Long Fei roared in his heart, and then smashed down with his fist. It smashed against the chain. Boom. 100 miles away, the waves were violent. They were like a huge fountain that sprayed out water, creating huge waves that were dozens of feet in length. They were rolling about non-stop. The entire beach suddenly caved in. Rumble. 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 The entire Sea City shook violently. City Lord's mansion. Bailey too suddenly stood up. What happened? Was it an earthquake? The tremors were too intense. Yang Dao also frowned, and thought, what a strong power. Could it be that there are super powerhouses in Sea City? All sorts of panic filled the manor as they were shocked by the violent tremors. An earthquake by the sea was extremely dangerous. If there was a tsunami, the entire Sea City would be destroyed. It was just that. The previous earthquake had stopped. Bailey too's heart also relaxed a little. A butler quickly walked in. Bailey too quickly asked, "What happened?" The butler replied, "The surface of the sea is stable. There aren't too many ripples nor is there a retreat of water. There shouldn't be a tsunami. However, I saw a violent wave at the back cliff of the training grounds." Bailey too asked, "Where's Tianhai?" "Young master went to the back cliff," said the butler. Bailey too was immediately enraged. "Bastard, it must be him doing something. He wants to go to the ancient antiquity, why can't I stop worrying? Elder Yang, this son of mine is really mischievous. I'll trouble you to take care of him once he arrives at ancient antiquity." While talking, Bailey too shot a glance at the butler. The butler looked out the door. Immediately, a servant walked in with a tray in both hands. On the tray, there were holy source stones. Sword-type holy source stone, Bailey too said, I know that Elder Yang is a sword cultivator. These holy source stones are very helpful to sword cultivators. I hope that Elder can accept them. These holy source stones were worth quite a bit. However, in order for his son to be better off in ancient antiquity and be taken care of, as his father, he was willing to give it his all. Moreover, he felt guilt towards Tianhai and had never cared for him in such a way since he was a child. He was very worried about leaving now. Yang Dao said, Mayor, you worry too much. I will take good care of all the disciples that I recruit into the ancient antiquity. Quickly take these things back. It's getting late. Let's go to the back cliff and take a look. It's time to take them to the sect to report. Sword holy source stone? These stones. Only the lowest level of existence. Yang Dao did not even glance at the door as they walked in. It was not that he did not like it, but it was because he really did not like it. Bailey too could tell that Yang Dao did not really like these holy source stones, but this was something that he could take out to the maximum. Laughed, even if I do not take care of him, some of the elders in the sect will definitely take care of him. Martial power is very important, but brain is also very important. Your son will definitely be given more importance in the ancient antiquity, you do not have to worry about that. Bailey too looked at the holy source stones. Yang Dao said, all right, I will accept these holy source stones. If he did not accept it, Bailey too might not be at ease. Bailey too was a person from a small place, so he saw things as simple. After receiving the gift, even if he did not take care of his son, he would still be of help. Seeing the holy source stones in Yang Dao's hands, Bailey too finally relaxed and said, all right, let's go to the back cliff and take a look. What kind of tricks is that bastard up to now? Beneath the cliff. Long Fei gasped for breath, lying on the beach, looking at the blue sky. He swallowed hard, so dangerous. The simple-minded man was also breathing heavily. His face was still flushed. He had just been scared to death. As Bailey Tianhai sat on the beach, his forehead was also dripping with cold sweat. The chain broke. The huge anchor slid into the bottom of the sea, causing the entire sea to shake. Not to mention salvaging, they might not even be able to find it now. If Long Fei did not break the chain just now, he would definitely have been dragged into the ocean. Bailey Tianhai was secretly shocked in his heart. He looked at Long Fei and said indifferently, thank you. He had never said this word before in his life. However, he knew that if not for Long Fei, Yu Shuang would already be dead. The simple-minded person also said, thank you. Long Fei dispiritedly waved his hand, and said, what are you thanking me for? It's also to help me. The one who should be thanking me. Phoenix giggled and said, the three of you are really funny. You all said thank you, so why not become sworn brothers? You also have your own care in ancient antiquity. Bailey Tianhai said, I think this suggestion is good. The simpleton said, all right. Long Fei looked at the phoenix. Phoenix giggled and her eyes moved slightly. Long Fei knew that the phoenix must have known of Bailey Tianhai's and Yu Shuang's inherent skills, which was why they had become sworn brothers. Long Fei said, then sworn brother. The three of them walked together. Long Fei asked, what procedures do you have to become sworn brothers? Bailey Tianhai replied, I don't understand. He shook his head like a rattle drum. Long Fei said, then let's go according to my hometown. I, Long Fei. I, Bailey Tianhai. I, Zhao Dahan. Three sworn brothers of the opposite sex, the sky above, the sea as proof, do not seek the same year and the same month to live, but the same month and the same day to die. Finished. The three of them knelt on the ground and heavily kowtowed. After that, the three of them stood up, and Long Fei laughed, it would be even better if there was wine. Bailey Tianhai was excited. He had never sworn brothers with anyone before, and was even more unaware of what it was like to be sworn brothers with someone, especially after hearing what Long Fei had said. It was too exciting. We don't want to be born on the same day of the same year, but we hope to die on the same day of the same month of the same year, and be brothers for the rest of our lives. He was even more excited. Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei and said, "In the future, you will be the big brother, and I will be number 2. The simple-minded man nodded heavily. The two looked at Long Fei and said, "Big brother." Phoenix giggled. Long Fei said, "Second brother, third brother." It was very simple to become sworn brothers. Long Fei was also a little excited in his heart. This was also the first time he had become sworn brothers with someone. "Bastard, what are you guys doing down there? Why aren't you coming up?" "On the cliff." Bailey too replied heavily. Bailey Tianhai said somewhat helplessly, "I heard it." Bailey too looked at the mess at the bottom of the cliff. His eyes shivered. "Where is that piece of gigantic black iron? That's weird. I spent a few years to salvage that place. Why is it gone?" Yang Dao also noticed it. There were clear scratches all around, and there were a few deep footprints on the martial arts arena, so something must have happened here just now. Long Fei said in a low voice, "Don't tell anyone about what happened just now." Bailey Tianhai immediately nodded. It was also at this time. Long Fei looked at the broken chain and his heart tightened. This chain is no longer an ordinary chain. He picked up the chain. Although it only contained a few sections, it was incredibly heavy. "Keep it first. It will definitely be useful in the future." He placed the chain on the space ring. At the same time, the system beeped. Ding. The system sounded out. The system sounded out. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Annihilation Chain's dam. Annihilation Chain? This. Isn't his luck too good? Long Fei was extremely shocked. He knew that the chain was not ordinary. The power of the anchor was too strong. The chain and anchor were different. If the anchor evolved, the chain would have evolved as well. But Long Fei did not expect the chain to be so powerful. Looking at the attribute of the annihilation chains, Long Fei's heart trembled once again. 50% destructive power. Awesome. Ha ha ha. I've struck it rich. Long Fei was ecstatic. His attributes were a little heaven-defying, but it's a bit of a hassle to use. Too heavy. If you use the superpower boxing again, it shouldn't be difficult. If I were to use the destructive power of this chain, who else could it be? Long Fei secretly laughed. He had made a huge profit this time. Not only did he acquire an advanced technology amber, he also acquired an annihilation chain. With Phoenix by his side, his luck had improved. Returning to the training grounds, Bailey too started to reprimand him. "Didn't I ask you to pack your things and go to the hall? Yet you ran around randomly and even took away that piece of deep-sea mysterious iron. Bastard, your skin is itchy, right?" Long Fei said, "Uncle Bailey, that piece of deep-sea mystical iron slipped into the deep sea due to improper handling. It has nothing to do with the sky sea." Bailey Tianhai grinned. "Dad, I was the one who did it. What's the problem? What is the use of that piece of scrap iron?" Bailey too was so angry that his eyes stared straight. "You." Yang Dao smiled slightly and said, "All right, it's getting late. We should get going." The idea moved and summoned the palm leaf fan. Yang Dao walked over and said, "Tianhai, is there anything else you want to tell father? This way, we'll be gone for at least 3 years or at most 10 years. Bailey Tianhai replied, "Nothing much to say." He stepped directly onto the banana leaf fan. On the other hand, Dahan said, "Old master, don't worry. I will take good care of young master. Please take good care of yourself here." Bailey too's eyes were filled with tears. He nodded and said, "All right, all right, all right." Long Fei reminded him, "Second brother, say something." The path of cultivation was long and arduous. To Powerhouse, 10 years of time might be equivalent to the flick of a finger, but to ordinary people, that was countless of years of time. Bailey Tianhai looked to the side with a stubborn look, and didn't say anything. He was the forebrain genius, with a terrifying intelligence, but towards his own father, he did not know how to express it. Everyone sat down. The banana fan slowly floated up. Yang Dao took out the holy source stone that Bailey too had given him, and said, "This was given to me by your father. He told me to take good care of you. Even if I didn't accept it, your father wouldn't be at ease, your father actually." Bailey Tianhai looked at the holy source stones. He began to understand why his father had sold so many treasures that he liked. It was all to pave the way for him. All of a sudden, Bailey Tianhai was unable to control his emotions. With tears in his eyes, he shouted down the stairs, "Father, take care of yourself. I never blamed you. I never did." On the ground, Bailey Tu's tears could not help but roll out, as she shouted loudly, "Stinky brat." As he spoke, he smiled. Long Fei looked at Bailey Tianhai, but he was actually incomparably envious in his heart. So many years. His memories had been given to him by the seal. He couldn't even remember what his father looked like, he only knew of a single name. He clenched his fists. "Dad, Mom, I'll definitely find you guys. I definitely will." Long Fei said with determination, "Emperor Xian, I will definitely kill you with my own hands. Definitely." The dragon clan was slaughtered. Long Zhanting was captured by the Emperor Xian. How about now? What kind of pain was he suffering from? Long Fei didn't know. Right now, he only wanted to become as strong as possible, to become strong enough to crush Emperor Xian with one hand before meeting him. Before meeting the Emperor Xian, the only thing Long Fei could do was to desperately become stronger. As if sensing the longing in Long Fei's heart, the phoenix gently leaned on Long Fei's shoulder and muttered, "I miss Aunt too." Long Fei withdrew his thoughts and said, "Don't worry, I will bring you home." Yang Dao secretly hid the holy source stones, and said, "These holy source stones are useless to me, take them and cultivate, it should be beneficial to your current cultivations. We need to fly for a few days to get to ancient antiquity. Cultivate properly during these few days, especially you, Long Fei." Yang Dao looked at Long Fei and said, "Your current cultivation level is too low. I know that your talent is very strong and you have great potential, but the elders of the ancient antiquity may not know about it. Furthermore, they will not give you any time to display it. If they don't think well of you, you won't be assigned a good place to cultivate. That's all. If the elders don't think well of you, then you will have to participate in the entrance exam. Actually, this test is just to make those who don't think well of you give up. Not many people can pass. The simplest and most direct method is to be selected by the elders. That way, it will be much easier." Yang Dao looked at Long Fei. Amongst the three of them, the one he was most worried about was Long Fei. Because Long Fei was unable to see through his potential, and on the contrary, Bailey Tianhai and Zhao Dehan could see it with a glance. They were both geniuses that the ancient antiquity needed. Actually, Yang Dao bringing Long Fei back to the ancient antiquity actually had a certain amount of risk. A person who couldn't see through their talent would at most only be an outer disciple in the ancient antiquity, and wouldn't be able to enter the core circle of the ancient antiquity for the rest of their lives. However, Yang Dao could tell that Long Fei was different from the others. Long Fei nodded his head, "I understand. You have to increase your cultivation as fast as possible. Even if you were not chosen by the elders, you have to work hard to pass the entrance exam and prove yourself to the elders of the ancient antiquity." Yang Dao helped Long Fei defend in advance. "I'm just afraid that Long Fei won't be able to accept it when the time comes." Long Fei smiled faintly and said, "I will." Bailey Tianhai said, "Boss, you are a sword cultivator. I have some understanding towards sword cultivators. I can help you solve any bottleneck." He was a genius, and a genius in cultivation. Zhao Dehan was confused, and said, "Boss cultivation is low? Why do I feel like he's much taller than me? I will try my best to catch up with you." Long Fei smiled slightly. His cultivation was only at the second stage of apprentice. Very low. But he had not been in the ancient world for more than 10 days. This speed was already as fast as a monster. Long Fei said, "All right, I am going to start cultivating." The idea moved. Refined space. Open. The refined space was divided into 8 doors, and behind each door, there was a training space. The refined space was divided into 8 doors, and behind each door, there was a training space. Different door, different training space. However, the time in training space was the same, it was 10:1 in comparison to the outside world. Inside, he cultivated for 10 days. According to Yang Dao, he still had more than 2 days of flying time before he could reach the ancient antiquity. In other words, Long Fei still had more than 20 days' time before he could break through. Sword space. Long Fei stepped into the space within which he was cultivating the way of the sword. He began cultivating. Long Fei had practiced a lot of the way of the sword in the small world. Whether it was the various profound sword techniques or his understanding towards the way of the sword, he had mastered it well. He could only slowly start one step at a time. This was a completely new experience for him. From the time he had crossed worlds until now, he had relied on experience or killing people to increase his cultivation level. But now, he had the same cultivation method as an ordinary person. Huff. Long Fei let out a long breath, his eyes moved slightly as he rushed out. His steps were like snakes as he held onto the sword, and continued to execute his basic sword techniques. Training was boring. A test of patience. 2 hours passed. 4 hours passed. 10 hours passed. Buzz. The moment he opened his spirit sense, the strength of his body visibly increased by a bit. His body also became a lot lighter. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Current level, 3rd stage of apprentice. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. You have received the reward of 1st rank Holy Source Stone. In the refined space, every time he leveled up, he would be rewarded. This was the most attractive thing, and when he broke through, he would even get a dungeon, which was what Long Fei liked the most. Absorb. Long Fei absorbed all the Holy Source Stones rewarded by the system. A surge of pure Holy Source power flowed into Long Fei's body. Huff. It's a comfortable feeling. Is this the power of the Holy Source inside the Holy Source Stone? Long Fei could clearly feel a warm power surging within his body. Long Fei felt this wondrous feeling. In the past, he could absorb spirit stones similar to this Holy Source Stone, but what did it increase? It was blue in quantity. There had never been such a feeling of energy flowing within his body. Is this the feeling of absorbing spirit stones? So strong. Long Fei tensed up and sat with his knees crossed, directing the energy of the Holy Source in his body. Open. Buzz. A loud boom resounded from within his body, and Long Fei uttered yet again. Break. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Currently at the 4th stage of apprentice. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining a level 3 life soul pill. In less than half a minute, Long Fei had broken through once again. This speed. It could only be described with one word: astonishing. After Long Fei leveled up just now, the warm feeling in his body had disappeared. Long Fei stopped and thought to himself, looks like cultivation is really related to resources. As long as I have enough Holy Source Stones, my speed should be very fast. Just now, it was obvious that the power within the Holy Source Stone was helping Long Fei to break through his realm. If not for this Holy Source Stone, it would have been impossible for a while. Resources. I need cultivation resources. Long Fei was secretly shocked. When training, one couldn't not be separated from the words wealth companion land. Wealth. Only with enough money could you buy the cultivation resources you want. Couples, partners, physical needs, as well as the female cultivator's sexual communication, yin and yang were both gentle and supple. This was also indispensable. Techniques, secret arts, and cultivation techniques. The cave. All 4 factors were indispensable. Long Fei had always been using his experience points to level up in the past, but now was different. Of course. If he did not want the rewards from the instance dungeon, he could have just killed a powerhouse and soared to the sky without even thinking about it. However, in that case, he would lose a lot. After Long Fei entered cultivation, he sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. The simpleton was watching by the side. When Bailey Tianhai cultivated, he would never cultivate and would instead act as a protector. Right now, Long Fei was also cultivating. Big brother, second brother were both training. He couldn't let his guard down even more, even though it was midair. He was just as cautious. Long Fei's 2 consecutive auras rose. Bailey Tianhai was shocked awake. He turned his face to look at Long Fei and thought to himself, it's only been 2 hours, and he has actually broken through twice in a row. Too powerful. Yang Dao's face was also filled with shock. This cultivation speed is a little terrifying, but Yang Dao's brows tightened as he looked into the distance. He was still worried in his heart. The reason why he could see Long Fei's power was because he had been in contact with Long Fei for a relatively long time, but the elders of the ancient antiquity were not like him. This world never lacked geniuses. Amongst those recruited from all over the world, which one of them wasn't a genius? It could be said that the geniuses gathered together. Unpolished jade also needs to be carved to show value. However, no one was willing to wait for a genius. With so many geniuses, who would be willing to waste time on a genius? Yang Dao was very clear that these elders of the ancient antiquity would definitely not give Long Fei much time or patience. Long Fei's inherent skill was not obvious, and up till now, Yang Dao had not been able to see it. If such a person was placed in the midst of a group of geniuses, it would seem especially eye-catching, because everyone's talent was better than Long Fei's. The elder simply would not give him any time. Huff. Yang Dao let out a light breath as he thought in his heart, his potential is definitely stronger than Bailey Tianhai's and Zhao Dehan's, but he didn't get the time from the Elders Guild, nor did they wait for him. No matter what, I have to find a chance to convince the elder. He knew that if he wasn't selected in the first round, then the second round of the selection would be even more difficult. Even if one passed the selection successfully, there wouldn't be many elders who would fall for it. At most, one could only be an outer disciple, and may not be able to step into the core circle of ancient antiquity for their entire life. The outer court disciples could do nothing. To put it harshly, outer sect disciples were the servants of the ancient antiquity. Everything they did was for the inner sect disciples and the elders. Yang Dao could not let Long Fei waste all of it in this place. If he recruited disciples, they would be the same as his own disciples. Yang Dao turned to look at Long Fei, and thought to himself, "Brat, work a little harder, your level is really too low. Let's fight a bit harder." 2 days passed quickly. The palm leaf fan went up through a thick layer of clouds. He was above the clouds. In the distance, it was a mountain range that was like a volcano. From afar, one could see a gigantic fierce character embroidered at the mouth of the volcano. Behind the volcano was a series of mountains that towered in the sky. An existence that was like an immortal's paradise. Yang Dao stood up, her gaze blazing. With a slight sound, she said, "Ancient antiquity has arrived." The peak of the mountain towered into the clouds, and white clouds surrounded it as the flock of birds flew away. The peak of the mountain towered into the clouds, and white clouds surrounded it as the flock of birds flew away. It looked like the world in which immortals lived. The ancient antiquity was divided into 7 main groups: Sword Spirit, Strength Sect, Pill Pavilion, Array Extinction, Beast Mountain, Horcrux's Gate, Main Hall. The main hall was the center of it all. The 6 great powers surrounded it, forming a formation that looked like a 6-point star. The stars surrounded the moon. The main hall was the center point, which was also the place where the most power gathered. The other powers lined up one after another. The sword was the most powerful sword. Dan, the beast, was the middle. The array was formed by a machine. Although the 6 peaks had their own unique characteristics, they were not unique. The Pill Pavilion did not only train the disciples in alchemy, he had also allowed them to train in sword techniques, powerhouses, formations, and equipment forging. Just like in university, there was a major in one field and a minor in the others. The Pill Pavilion specialized in alchemy. He would use the pill to step into the Tao, and the pill to assist in his training. The same was true for the other forces. Every time Yang Dao returned to the ancient antiquity, his heart filled with emotion. That kind of pride rose involuntarily as he looked into the distance with his blazing eyes. This is the ancient antiquity, the place where you all will live in the future. This place will become the place where you all can grow up in, and this place will allow you all to soar into the skies. He spoke very excitedly. To Yang Dao, it was the ancient antiquity that raised him. This was his home. Although he did not have the qualifications to enter the core circle of the ancient antiquity, He had strived for the ancient antiquity his entire life. He traveled everywhere to find the talents needed by the ancient antiquity. He knew that the sects needed more powerful and fresh blood. Only then would the sects be able to continue growing stronger. These were the geniuses that he had recommended to the sect at least 20 times. After entering the inner court, they were now the elite disciples of the various branch sects. However, not many of these disciples remembered him. Yang Dao did not care about all these. As long as the sect was strong, he would be satisfied. Buzz! A loud boom echoed out. From the clouds, a crane suddenly emerged. Its sharp beak let out a cry. Caw! The power of the sound wave, which was visible to the naked eye, was unleashed in an instant. Ah! One of his hands covered Bailey Tianhai's ears, while the other hand covered Long Fei's ears. He was resisting it with all his might, until his body was trembling. The cry of the immortal crane directly transmitted into his sea of consciousness. His mind and eardrums seemed to be on the verge of exploding. That kind of pain was too unbearable. Zhao Dahan was simply unable to endure it. Bailey Tianhai also instantly opened his eyes, his body sank, revealing a painful expression, his hands covered his ears, his forehead turned sinister as he stared at the gigantic red-crowned crane. Long Fei was training in the refined space. His body felt the sound wave attack, and in that instant, he simply did not have time to come out from the refined space, nor did he have the time to use the power of the ancient dragon body. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Eyes wide with anger. His face turned slightly pale. He glared at the gigantic crane not too far away. Blood gushed from his eardrums. His sea of consciousness rolled and his mind shook. It was very uncomfortable. Long Fei looked at the man on the red-crowned crane and cursed, "Fuck." The man on top of the crane was dressed in white, standing tall and straight, with a look of contempt in his eyes. He looked at Yang Dao, laughed, and said, "Yang Dao, how many pieces of trash did you get? What do you think of the ancient antiquity? To be a dumpster?" Yang Dao said indifferently, "Lin Yuan, they are all talented people. How dare you?" Without waiting for Yang Dao to finish speaking, Lin Yuan snorted coldly, "Can you call me by my name? Yang Dao, you are also an old man from the ancient antiquity. What is my status now? What is your identity? How could someone like you call me by my name?" Yang Dao's gaze tensed up. Long Fei said solemnly, "So arrogant." Yang Dao quickly gave Long Fei a meaningful glance to silence him, then politely smiled and bowed to Lin Yuan, "Senior brother Lin." Lin Yuan laughed complacently, "That's more like it. Ha ha ha. Yang Dao, how many years have you been in ancient antiquity before me? 10 years, or 20? Speaking of which, you were the one who brought me into the ancient antiquity. I didn't expect that after so long, you would actually become like this. Now you want to call me senior brother instead, ha ha ha." Lin Yuan laughed proudly. Hearing his words, Long Fei and the others all became suspicious. The disciple that Yang Dao brought in was actually going to make Yang Dao call him senior brother. Furthermore, this person called Lin Yuan, not only did he not know how to be grateful, he even dared to mock Yang Dao. In the face of Lin Yuan's mockery, Yang Dao acted as if he did not hear it, and politely replied, "Senior brother Lin has outstanding talent and is also a natural-born beast warrior. Since you have received the direct disciple of the Beast Mountain King and became an elite disciple of the inner court in less than a year, I naturally have to call you senior brother." Yang Dao's humility did not stop him, rather, he mocked him even more. Ha ha ha. Lin Yuan laughed disdainfully, "Yang Dao, oh Yang Dao, what use do you think you have?" He had been in the ancient antiquity for so many years and was still an outer disciple. "I really can't understand why ancient antiquity must raise an old trash like you. Ha ha ha." Another sneer. Long Fei could not hold in his anger, the anger in his heart was bubbling. There was actually such a person. Originally, he was already very unhappy after being shaken by the immortal crane sound wave to the point of spitting blood, but hearing Lin Yuan's words, he became even more furious in his heart. What was his motto in life? If you don't accept it, then do it. Let alone you being an elite disciple of the inner sect, even if you were ancient antiquities sect master Long Fei, you would still go and take revenge. Immediately, Long Fei said angrily, I said Elder Yang is trash, but who the hell are you? Scum, shit. If it wasn't for Elder Yang leading the way, who knows where you would be? Now that you're acting so cocky here, you have to be careful. I really wonder where this sense of superiority came from. If I were your father, I would have shot you on the wall. After Long Fei finished speaking, Zhao Dehan immediately cheered, Boss, well said. Bailey Tianhai clapped his hands and gave Long Fei a big thumbs up. Only Phoenix muttered, What do you mean by shooting you into the wall? Long Fei said in a low voice, About this. It's a rather profound technique. Yang Dao's face sunk, he gently shook his head at Long Fei, signaling him to stop. Lin Yuan shot a glance at Long Fei, and disregarded him immediately. Because Long Fei was not qualified to speak to him, so he looked at Yang Dao and sneered, So this is the trash that you've brought in? Yang Dao said, They all have their own unique inherent skills, they. Lin Yuan interrupted him again. Unique trash? Then. Lin Yuan's gaze turned, and suddenly looked at Long Fei. At this moment, the eyes of the gigantic immortal crane suddenly widened, and immediately locking onto Long Fei. In an instant. With the pressure pouring in, Long Fei's body sank. Lin Yuan sneered, and said, Brat, you don't even have the qualifications to speak to me. Don't worry, trash like you won't be able to enter the ancient antiquity. Trash. Phoenix stared at Lin Yuan angrily, You dare to scold my husband? Phoenix's temper was a little bad. Phoenix's temper was a little bad. She didn't care who she scolded, but the only thing she couldn't do was scold Long Fei. Not a word. Immediately. She was furious. With both hands on her waist, she angrily said, You dare to insult my husband. I'll make you suffer. Lin Yuan shot a glance at the phoenix before completely ignoring it, and coldly laughed. Another piece of trash. This time. Phoenix was even more infuriated. Her two eyes looked just like they were staring at a furious Pikachu, as though it was about to shoot 100,000 volts of electricity to kill Lin Yuan. However, at this moment, Yang Dao pulled at Phoenix and said in a low voice, Little aunt, please don't say anything. Phoenix said, I won't say anything. I will directly take action. Get out of the way, see how I'm going to deal with him. He actually dares to scold my husband. What does he count as? What qualifications do you have to scold my husband? He had to rush to the front. Lin Yuan's face was filled with contempt and extreme disdain. Yang Dao continued, If you were to take action, then our ancient antiquity does not need to go. We will be eliminated. He actually dared to make a move on an inner disciple of the ancient antiquity to join them. This was impossible. Once they took action, Lin Yuan would report this matter to the top. Then, Long Fei and the other two would not have to go to the ancient antiquity, and would be eliminated. If they were eliminated, it was possible that they would be hunted down. Yang Dao did not want to do this. He thought that Long Fei and the other two had great potential, and would definitely shine in ancient antiquity. It could also help the ancient antiquity increase his strength. Seeing Yang Dao act this way, Long Fei indifferently said, Bing Bing, forget it. Phoenix said, No one is allowed to scold you. Seeing that Yang Dao was about to be unable to hold on to the phoenix, the idea moved, and the palm leaf fan suddenly dropped. Laughed, then said, Forget it, don't lower yourself to the same level as a scum. In any case, there's still a lot of time left in ancient antiquity, and there's still plenty of time. The phoenix chi relaxed slightly. At this moment, Lin Yuan sneered, Trash is trash. His voice was not loud, but it was heard by Phoenix. How could he be this angry? Phoenix imitated Long Fei's tone and said, Damn you, do you really think I am a little sparrow if I don't show you my might? Now that they had left, the phoenix's voice could not reach Lin Yuan's ears. There won't be any consequences. Yang Dao also did not stop Phoenix from leaving. Phoenix's pupils changed and she muttered softly, You actually dare to ride on a flying beast in front of me? I am the king of birds. Buzz. Her aura suddenly changed. No one could sense this change. Because the phoenix came from the Phoenix Valley, and she was a person of the divine space. Unless it was a person of the divine space, her power would not be easily sensed. A surge of power gushed out. Woo-woo. Above the layer of clouds, the crane suddenly went out of control and went berserk. Completely out of control, it rotated at 360 degrees. Lin Yuan said heavily, "Bastard, what are you trying to do? Stop, stop. Bastard." She didn't listen to him at all. Caw. With a scream, the red-crowned man suddenly flung Lin Yuan away. Its sharp mouth was like a awl, piercing towards Lin Yuan, who was sent flying. Lin Yuan stabilized his body and continued to dodge. It had to be said that Lin Yuan's strength was not to be underestimated. The red-crowned crane was a flying beast of the immortal stage, and its attribute was extremely high, so its consecutive attacks were extremely fast. Furthermore, it had the advantage in flying, but even so, it still did not manage to stab Lin Yuan. Swift steps continuously dodged. While dodging, he tried to use his beast-taming powers to regain control of the middle immortal crane. "Animal, calm down. Did you hear that? Bastard!" he shouted loudly. His talent was that of a beast, and he was also the king of Beast Mountain's direct disciple. His ability to control beasts was extremely high, but right now, it was completely useless. The red-crowned crane attacked crazily as both its wings pounced madly. The wind was like blades as it let out mournful screams, and the sound waves rushed towards Lin Yuan one after another. Lin Yuan was very agitated. At the same time, Lin Yuan was also enraged. He waved his sword and bellowed, "Bastard, go and die." His figure flashed, and his sword slashed out. Crash! The crane head was cut off and the crane fell down. Fresh blood sprayed all over Lin Yuan's body. He was in an extremely sorry state. In the distance, Yang Dao, Bailey Tianhai, Zhao Dahan, and the others were all dumbfounded. Phoenix continued to giggle loudly. "You deserved it, deserved it. I told you to scold my husband, ha ha ha. Ha ha ha." Very happy. Long Fei's expression sank, and directly sent a sound transmission to the Phoenix. "How did you promise me that? Didn't I tell you not to use your own strength? Don't tell me you want to be like the Master Xian." Once the power of the Phoenix was captured, it would become exceptionally dangerous. Long Fei still vividly remembered what happened that night. The black-clothed powerhouse was too powerful. With Long Fei's current cultivation, even if he added in the strength of the ancient dragon body, he would still not be a match for her. He was really worried. If those black-clothed people appeared, how was he going to protect Phoenix? The only thing he could do now was to hide the Phoenix. Hiding and making himself stronger. There were also considerations in this regard when entering the ancient antiquity. Because the black-clothed man would only know that Phoenix was going to return to the Phoenix Valley, he would not think that she would enter the ancient antiquity. This also gave Long Fei more time to become strong. During this entire process, Long Fei told the Phoenix not to reveal its own strength, and even more so not to use its own strength. Long Fei said with a heavy tone. Phoenix lowered her head and gently played with the hem of her clothes. She softly said, "Hubby, I was wrong. I won't do it again." Long Fei calmed down and said, "I shouldn't have said that so heavily just now. However, you must remember, even if my life is in danger, you can't use your own strength, understand?" Phoenix raised her head and was about to say. But Long Fei stared at her and said, "Do you understand?" Phoenix lowered her head again and muttered, "I understand." Their conversation was being transmitted to the others, but no one noticed it. Zhao Dahan laughed and said, "Serves you right, let's see if you can still be so arrogant." In the distance, Lin Yuan stared fiercely at Yang Dao, his gaze tensed up as he said with a heavy voice, "Yang Dao, of the many people that you have brought this year, one of them entered the ancient antiquity with your surname and I will be with you." Humph. Incomparable rage. This red-crowned crane was something he had subdued yesterday, and he had killed it before it even had the chance to make a ruckus. He felt an incomparable amount of hatred in his heart. Yang Dao laughed bitterly, turned around and looked at the three of them, and said, "This is even more difficult. Lin Yuan is a disciple that the Beast Mountain King has set his eyes on. This time, The Beast Mountain King had even sent him to pick a disciple. You guys have offended him, I'm afraid. Bailey Tianhai said, Elder Yang, you do not have to worry, the ancient antiquity is not opened by his family, even if there are no elders interested in us, we can still work hard to pass the selection ourselves. Elder Yang said, I hope so. There was no absolute respect in the world of the martial arts training, only the fear of the powerhouse. There was no absolute respect in the world of the martial arts training, only the fear of the powerhouse. When Yang Dao brought Lin Yuan into the ancient antiquity, Lin Yuan was not grateful in the least, but he still looked down on the weak. This happened very often, so Yang Dao thought that it was normal. As long as these people could become stronger in the ancient antiquity, and increase the strength of the ancient antiquity, that would be enough for him. Yang Dao rode on the palm leaf fan and the group of 5 landed on the ground. Above the clouds was a huge mountain. Under the clouds, this was no longer a mountain, but a mountain that stretched as far as the eye could see. Yang Dao said, this is the intense flaming mountain range, and the 7 peaks of our ancient antiquity are located in this mountain range. Even though you may not look much from high above, in reality, every mountain peak is separated by more than 10,000 kilometers. Aside from these mountains, this mountain range is also extremely dangerous. Don't casually go in. There are many powerful demon beast and ancient demons in the mountain range. Don't think too much about these monsters when you see them, just run as fast as you can. Yang Dao explained, please wait here for a moment, I will register for you. As Yang Dao left, Zhao Dahan stretched his muscles and bones, feeling a lot more at ease. Yang Dao was just like teachers. They were students, and with a teacher around, the students would naturally not dare to be too relaxed. Bailey Tianhai said, Elder Yang said that the mountain range is extremely dangerous. I think that if there are no elders selecting us, we will need to be assessed inside. Zhao Dahan was startled, and said, second brother, you knew? Long Fei said, don't worry, with your talents as ancient elites, there should be an elder or powerhouse who wants you. When the time comes, you don't need to worry about me. One was the forebrain genius, the other was the innate divine strength. This kind of talent was definitely something to be reckoned with. There was no need to worry at all. Is Long Fei? Zhao Dahan said, big brother, what about you? Long Fei smiled, and said, don't worry, I am an old cunning fox, there is no examination that would be hard for me said, we have sworn brothers, sharing honor and disgrace, sharing fortune and suffering together. If the elders had not chosen you, we would have fought with you in the outer sect. I do not believe that we 3 brothers will not be able to enter the inner sect. He was in high spirits. Bailey Tianhai was extremely proud of himself. Because he's smart. But that was because the world he was exposed to was too small. This was the ancient antiquity, and all the disciples here were geniuses among geniuses. Those who could be directly chosen to enter the inner sect were even more monstrous. Long Fei said, don't, you guys go in first, we will. Just as Long Fei was speaking, he suddenly stopped, and looked towards his direction. Bailey Tianhai followed Long Fei's gaze and looked over, wow. Zhao Dahan also looked over. He was normally silly with only one thing in his mind, other than eating, it was training. No matter what kind of love he had, he did not know anything about men and women. His eyes couldn't help but stare. What a beautiful woman. Beautiful? To the woman not far away, this word was too ordinary. She could no longer use the word beautiful to describe it. Allure. She was like a fox and had the temperament of a fairy. When these two were combined on a human, any male would be able to remember them for the rest of their lives just by looking at them. Beautiful. Beautiful. She was as beautiful as a beautiful, evil woman. She was also as beautiful as a devastatingly beautiful beauty. Everyone was stunned by her appearance. One by one, both men and women stood rooted to the ground, as if they had been petrified by her beauty. Her every frown, every movement on her body, and every movement of her clothes seemed to be like a goddess walking out of a painting. It made everyone's heart tighten. Breathing stopped. It was too beautiful, a breathtaking beauty. Long Fei looked at her, his heart also suddenly stopped beating, his eyes tensed up, looking at her, his eyes stared straight at her. He didn't dare to look straight into the eyes of that beauty like the rest of the crowd. He was looking straight into her eyes. Just like the others, he too was stunned. But he was different from others in that he felt as if he had seen this woman before in his previous life, as if it had appeared in his mind. He didn't know why. This feeling was very strong. It was as if they knew each other, as if they were once his women. The woman's eyes were cold. There were no ripples in her gaze, just like a calm spring, without a single ripple. Facing the burning gazes of the crowd, her gaze did not change at all. It was like rejecting the entire world. Step by step, she walked up the steps of the mountain gate. Step by step, she walked into the depths of the mountain gate. Everyone looked at her, then tiptoed and stretched their necks, wishing they could look at her for a little longer. Until the woman's figure completely disappeared. Only then did those who were holding their breath let out a heavy sigh, huff. It's so beautiful. Wow, how can there be such a beautiful woman in this world? Is this the ancient antiquities goddess? I feel like I'm falling in love. Damn, I even felt like I fell in love. Do you know who she is? Is that something you can indulge in? Wake up, stop dreaming. I am a newcomer. Who is that senior sister? I have to get into her department. I have to fight for her all my life. Damn, you don't even know her. I really don't know where you bunch of bumpkins came from. She is the #1 goddess of the ancient antiquity, and also the great senior sister of the Sword Elf Mountain. Her name is Liu Luoshi. You group of idiots shouldn't worry too much. Her cultivation is not something that you scum can reach. You can only look up to her. Liu Luoshi, I have never heard such a pleasant name. I have decided. No matter what, I want to join the Sword Elf Mountain. I'm going all out. All of them were extremely excited, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. It was as if he wanted to immediately enter the Sword Elf Mountain and become the beautiful woman's junior brother. Bailey Tianhai smiled slightly and said, Sword Elf Mountain? I happen to be a sword cultivator as well. It was very obvious that even an extremely conceited four-brain genius like Bailey Tianhai was subdued by Liu Luoshi's beauty. Zhao Dahan muttered, too bad I'm not a sword cultivator. Phoenix giggled and said, hubby, that big sister is so pretty. She's a sword cultivator and you're a sword cultivator too. I support you in chasing her down. When we become sword cultivators together, how nice would that be? Hee hee. Phoenix looked at Long Fei as she spoke. Long Fei's gaze had still stayed at the place where Liu Luoshi had disappeared from, and he muttered, Liu Luoshi. The name was too familiar. The name was too familiar. However, the familiar man could not say it out loud, but he could not recall it. His head was aching. Memory seal. Long Fei took a deep breath, SS. Damn it, Emperor Xian did not die, but his memories of seal were still there. His memories were still stuck in the seal. When he heard the 3 words Liu Luoshi, Long Fei was a little despondent, as if his heart had been grabbed. It was very hard. He wanted to release this pain, but he couldn't. He stood there in a daze, watching Liu Luoshi slowly disappear from his sight. He wanted to rush forward, wanted to shout out her name. However, he couldn't cry out. He could only stand on the spot in a daze. Bailey Tianhai laughed. Big brother, big brother. Hey, big brother, are you that bewitched? Ha ha ha. The charm of a beauty is indeed extraordinary. Long Fei was startled, and recovered. What happened? His heart tightened, and muttered once again, Liu Luoshi? Bailey Tianhai laughed. Big brother, you are also enchanted, right? Ha ha ha. I can give you the rest, but she won't do it. I'll definitely do my best to get her. Ha ha ha. Phoenix raised her fist and said, you dare. Bailey Tianhai said, pursuing beauties is the right of every man. Even if he's my big brother, I won't let him go either. At this moment, Long Fei couldn't help but say, she's my woman. As soon as he finished, Bailey Tianhai and Zhao Dahan looked at Long Fei at the same time. The crowd burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. What did he say? Liu Luoshi is his woman? This is the funniest joke I've ever heard in my life. Ha ha ha. Brat, why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? Do you have a goddess that's worthy of me? You better not let the people from the Sword Elf Mountain hear about it. Otherwise, they will smash your mouth to smithereens. Long Fei's words were just like a big joke. The crowd burst into laughter. However, Long Fei's expression was very serious. He was not ashamed of the laughter around him. Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei and asked, "Big brother, is she really your woman?" "I can't, you just came to ancient antiquity, how could she be your woman? If it was your woman, how could she not recognize you? This doesn't make sense. Big brother, I haven't read that many books, so don't lie to me. If it's really your woman, then a gentleman won't take away another's love." Zhao Dahan also asked seriously, "Big brother, is it true?" Phoenix also looked at Long Fei with curiosity, and said, "Hubby, quickly tell me." Long Fei was silent for a moment, then laughed bitterly. "I don't know, it seems to be very familiar, and her name is also very familiar to me, but I just can't think of her appearance, maybe she's from the same surname." It wasn't impossible. The world was big, and there were many people with the same surname. Moreover, Long Fei couldn't even remember her appearance as he memorized the seal. What was she called? Long Fei felt very upset in his heart. King Emperor Xian, my memories of the seal, CK your 18 generations of ancestors. Bailey Tianhai's heart relaxed, and he laughed. Then it's definitely not, then I can relax and boldly chase after him, ha ha ha. Big brother, don't worry. She won't be your woman. I'll make her your sister-in-law, ha ha ha. Bailey Tianhai said confidently. Whether it was appearance or intelligence, he had always been very confident. If a woman doesn't love you, it's because you haven't touched her heart. Long Fei smiled, and did not continue arguing. At this moment, Yang Dao walked back and said, "There are still 2 hours before the 7 great representatives from the inner sect come down for the selection. When it is your turn, try to display your talent to the best of your abilities. This will be of great help to you." As Yang Dao spoke, he patted Long Fei's shoulders and said, "I've already arranged everything, don't feel too much pressure." Bailey Tianhai did not care about all this. His entire mind was now on how to chase up to Liu Luoshi, and he asked, "Elder Yang, did that goddess really come from the Sword Elf Mountain?" Yang Dao nodded and said, "Yes, the great senior sister of Sword Elf Mountain." "Beautiful, right? Ha ha ha. If I was a few years younger, I would also be as mesmerized as you. But I suggest you stop worrying. From the moment she entered the ancient antiquity until now, there has not been a single man who could obtain his heart, nor have you ever smiled at any man. She is like a 10,000-year-old ice mountain. You won't be able to melt her. It's better for you to focus on your cultivation." The corner of Bailey Tianhai's mouth lifted, and said, "Only with high difficulty can there be a challenge. I, Bailey Tianhai, have never failed something, I will definitely catch her." Long Fei suddenly asked, "Elder Yang, how did she enter the ancient antiquity, and for how long?" Yang Dao thought for a while, then said, "I am not sure of the specific time, but it should be over 100 years. Her talent is also very special, her talent for sword cultivation is extremely high, and she can also create talismans. In short, your talent is way worse than hers, so all of you should recognize the reality of the situation. Some people can only look up to her, it's out of reach." There were simply too many rumors regarding Liu Luoshi. A heavenly woman descended to the mortal world. The goddess of the foreign lands. There were even rumors that she didn't like men. She was a stone maiden. But no matter the rumors, her position as a goddess in the ancient antiquity had never wavered. Ever since she entered the ancient antiquity, she had always been in first place on the sect's goddess board. Long Fei thought to himself, 100 years is about the same as Xiao Bai, ice and fire, and the queen, but could it be her? After a period of time, a person's appearance would also change. He was unable to confirm if Long Fei's memories were the sealess. Phoenix giggled and said, "Hubby, don't worry. I think that little big sister is pretty good. I'll help you steal her." Yang Dao laughed, "You guys should give up on this idea. She has many flower protectors in the inner sect. If they want to chase her, you all must be strong enough. All right, get ready, The selection is about to begin. You have to be patient. Yang Dao reminded. Zhao Dahan nodded and said, "Mn Long Fei's mind flew. He didn't have the mood to continue cultivating. Bailey Tianhai was naturally at ease. To him, Liu Luoshi was about to become his woman. 2 hours passed quickly. A group of people descended from the upper steps. This group of people were chatting, and the person in the middle was Lin Yuan, who had just killed his own mount with his own hand. Looking at the group of people, Yang Dao's heart immediately tightened. This is bad. Bailey Tianhai also said solemnly, "It's that Lin Yuan again." Lin Yuan slowly walked down from the peak and glanced at Yang Dao, who was in the middle of the crowd, and said to the people around him. Lin Yuan slowly walked down from the peak and glanced at Yang Dao, who was in the middle of the crowd, and said to the people around him. "Senior brother Lin, don't worry. This small matter is too simple. That old trash, Yang Dao, hasn't died. He's still not leaving even with that thick of a face. His skin sure is thick enough. That old trash brought the lame duck, he's a perfect match. He can only deceive those new disciples. I wonder how many useful disciples he has brought with him all these years. All of them are trash. Carrying the name of the ancient antiquity and fooling around, how shameful." The few disciples beside Lin Yuan all started to mock him. Lin Yuan laughed and said, "I will be counting on my brothers for help later. Don't worry, after this matter, I will do my best to help me with anything that is needed to tame Demon Beast. Senior brother Lin is too polite. Yeah, it's just a small matter." Lin Yuan secretly sneered at Yang Dao. "Old trash, the person you brought can enter the ancient antiquity. They are representatives." He was the representative of the 7 big powers of the ancient antiquity. It meant that the elders were able to test everyone's talent. The results they provided directly affected whether or not these people could be selected. They were inner court disciples. Seeing them appear, the outer sect disciples that were maintaining order revealed looks of admiration on their faces. One by one, they bowed respectfully. "Senior brother, senior brother, senior brother." Even outer door presbyter had to be respectful when he saw inner disciples. "Senior brother." The outer sect of ancient antiquity only served the inner sect. As long as one entered the inner sect, they would be above others in the ancient antiquity. However, if they couldn't enter the inner court and could only enter the outer court, then the inner court disciples would step on them for the rest of their lives. Lin Yuan walked down the stage and directly walked in front of Yang Dao, coldly smiled, and said, "Old trash, I will make it so that not a single one of your people will be able to enter the inner sect." Ha ha ha. Lin Yuan's gaze swept across them, and glanced at Long Fei and the others, his eyes filled with contempt. Phoenix was about to fly into a rage. Long Fei pulled her. He did not want to make it difficult for Yang Dao. If it was him alone, he was afraid that Lin Yuan would fall on the ground and not move. Too arrogant. Is the ancient antiquity his home? I don't believe that he can cover the sky with one hand. Bailey Tianhai was very unhappy. Yang Dao exhaled a heavy breath, and said, "No matter what, all of you should be extra careful, and work even harder to display your talents. Even if you haven't entered the inner sect yet, don't be discouraged. The inner sect still has a chance." Yang Dao helped them prepare preventive measures. Bailey Tianhai said, "Elder Yang, don't worry, I will definitely enter the inner sect." Bam! After the gong sounded, one of the elders shouted, "All of you, quiet down. We are going to conduct a test of talent. This is the most important test for all of you. If your gifted vein is selected, you can directly enter the inner sect and become an inner sect disciple. However, if you do not meet the criteria, you should not be discouraged. All right. Those whose names are listed below, come up. I'll remember it. Try your best to show your talent. Ancient antiquity does not accept trash." As soon as he finished, the entire audience was stunned. There were thousands of people present. Every single person here was a genius among geniuses. There were tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of people in a city that had chosen one of them to be chosen. Right now, they were competing on who was more talented. Geniuses were selected from the group of geniuses. In the distance, the 7 elders landed. They stood in 7 different directions. They were the elders of the 7 great powers, and also the ones who had the true power to decide. Every single one of them had a cultivation base that was above the sword saints. The 7 of them swept their gaze over the crowd before sighing, "It seems like this match was all for naught. There aren't any outstanding talents. I wonder why those people were recruited. They are all ordinary people. Only Beast King Mountain's Lin Yuan is not bad. He seems to be here today as well. I should have taken him in back then. Ha ha ha. He is now one of the top disciples of the Beast Mountain, and has received the direct disciple of the Beast King. Stop wasting time, hurry up and start." They looked impatient. Because they didn't want to waste time on a group of ordinary people. They had roughly sensed that the person they were looking for wasn't here with just a single glance. In other words, this time, the rookie selection was for naught. An elder said softly, "Let them begin. Shia Emo, come out." A bald man with a tuft of hair on his head walked out. He hugged his fists and heavily said, "I am Shia Emo. My talent is Vaja, 1. As soon as he finished, everyone laughed. "Diamond, diamond. Do you want porcelain?" Ha ha ha. Shia Emo also laughed, but it was not on purpose. "Let's test the blood vein's inherent skill first." Shia Yi Maro walked forward, and a drop of his blood fell onto the green stone. The green stone absorbed the blood, and a faint green light flashed. 4th level blood vein, low level blood vein. A 4th rank blood vein is still low? Damn, aren't these standards too high? 4th rank blood vein? If it isn't a natural blood vein, it would be a transformed blood vein that spirit blood absorbed from a 4th stage demon beast. This is too difficult. Everyone whispered amongst themselves. If a 4th stage blood vein was placed in an ordinary city, it could be said to be a terrifying existence. However, in front of ancient antiquity, there were only low-level blood vein. To put it bluntly, there were only trash blood vein. Shia Emo, with a nonchalant look on his face, walked to the place where his talent was displayed. Lin Yuan raised his hand, and said, "Please begin your performance." Shia Yi Maro moved slightly, his horse steps sank, he was angry at the pubes, his 2 eyes suddenly stared, and a light suddenly appeared above his head. The loose strands of hair suddenly shot up to the sky. It became a hairstyle like a flycatcher. It provoked another round of ridicule from the crowd. However, in the next second, no one laughed. The head of Shia Yi Maro suddenly hit the ground heavily, and then fiercely flipped up, a deep hole appearing in the thick granite floor. It was that tuft of hair. As he continuously rolled about, one deep hole after another appeared on the ground. His tuft of hair was like a drill. Long Fei said indifferently, "Diamond hair? Interesting." It was just that. An elder said in a deep voice, "Cultivation is not a juggling, you go over it again and again. Are you a monkey?" Next. Immediately. Presided elders quickly said, "Not qualified, next." Shia Yi Mao's gaze darkened as he walked down dispiritedly. The hair that soared to the sky above his head also loosened. It scattered and scattered all over the top of his head like a bald man. Shia Emo used his hand to brush his hair, looking somewhat wretched as he mumbled, "Me is a juggler." Yang Dao said, "He can be considered an ancient era's energy user, but his potential has yet to awaken. It's a pity." One by one, they went down, and one by one, they became dejected. There was no lack of those with ancient ability. It was just that their strength was a bit too deviated from the path of cultivation. In fact, most of them were very chaotic. Next, Zhao Dahan. As soon as he finished, Zhao Dahan replied excitedly, "It's my turn." Lin Yuan raised his gaze, and his eyes moved slightly. The other disciple already understood. Zhao Dahan walked to the blood vein testing stage. Zhao Dahan walked to the blood vein testing stage. Spirit blood landed. The green stone had absorbed spirit blood, and then it shouted out a green light. The purity of the green light was extremely high. However, without waiting for the results of the test to come out, the disciple shouted coldly, "3rd rank blood vein, low." Finished. The disciple placed one hand on top of the green stone and coldly said to Zhao Dahan, "What are you still standing there for? Let's go down." Zhao Dahan scratched his head. He had thought that his blood veins were of a high level, but he did not expect it to be only a third-stage blood vein. However, it did not affect him. She smiled awkwardly at Bailey Tianhai, then walked towards the talent display stand. Bailey Tianhai immediately said, "That's not right, a big and silly blood vein cannot be a third-stage blood vein." Long Fei also said, "Something's not right." Yang Dao strode forward and said, "Elder, I request that Zhao Dahan undergo another examination." He could also tell that Zhao Dahan was definitely not a third-stage blood vein. Even if an ancient blood vein had not awakened, it was still impossible for it to only be at the third rank. Most warriors were third-stage blood vein. Zhao Dahan's talent could not be third-stage blood vein, the level of blood vein was too low. However, just as Yang Dao finished speaking, an elder stood up and spoke with disdain. "Who are you? You said that you would test it again when you want to test it again? Who do you think you are?" Yang Dao saluted and said, "Disciple Yang Dao is an outer disciple of the ancient antiquity, and is specifically searching for a variety of talented disciples for the ancient antiquity." "So you are Yang Dao? I was wondering why there's still a third-level trash here. So it was brought here by an old trash like you." The clan elder did not give Yang Dao any face. Even if Yang Dao stayed in ancient antiquity longer than him, it would still be the same. Yang Dao's eyes darkened slightly as she said, "Elder, please test him again." "How dare you?" Another elder stood up and shouted, "What do you think this place is? How can we waste our time on a piece of trash? Even if our time is not worth much, what about the elder of Inner House? Yang Dao, oh Yang Dao, didn't you recruit so many trash every year just because you want to obtain sect contribution points to maintain your status in the ancient antiquity? What? Do you want to go to heaven? Do you really think you can find geniuses from the ancient era? Do you still want to take this opportunity to enter the inner sect? Wake up, stop dreaming." After the elder finished speaking, many of the surrounding people began to laugh. "Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. That means he shamelessly stays here and finds some trash every year. What's the use of that? If he doesn't take a piss and look at himself, will the genius of the ancient era be discovered by him? He's a piece of trash himself. Ha ha ha." Everyone mocked. Yang Dao acted as if he hadn't heard, as if he had seen something. However, his eyes secretly tightened. Even if they pretended not to see it, no one would mind. It was the same for Yang Dao. What was hard to bear was not the ridicule, but the fact that no one understood him and misunderstood his intentions. He only wanted to do his best to help the ancient antiquity. If his cultivation was not good enough to become the powerhouse, then he wanted to find a few more disciples with potential to help ancient antiquity and add fuel to the fire. However, his actions were considered shameless. Even so, he was still the same. Yang Dao said firmly, "I still hope that Elder can give him another chance, and request that you allow him to test it again. This is too presumptuous. What do you think we are? Yang Dao, I think you don't want to stay here anymore." All the outer door presbyters were very angry. Lin Yuan started laughing coldly and said proudly, "Elders, there is no need to be angry. Yang Dao, since you insist on the request, our ancient antiquity will not miss out on any genius who has been buried, but what if his blood vein level hasn't changed? Then he and the people you brought with him today all lose their qualifications." Yang Dao's gaze tensed up. Zhao Dahan immediately said, "I am a third-stage blood vein, I do not need to test any further." He didn't want to make it difficult for Yang Dao, and even more so, didn't want to disqualify Long Fei and Bailey Tianhai because of him. Yang Dao's eyes turned cold, and his fists secretly clenched inside his sleeves. Lin Yuan laughed. "A third-stage blood vein trash has more awareness than you. How come you, an old trash, don't have any awareness at all?" Ha ha ha. Many people began to laugh. Yang Dao's face was ugly, his heart feeling guilty towards Zhao Dahan. He was the one who found him, but he was being treated unfairly. He was very clear that Zhao Dahan's blood veins were definitely more than just at the third rank, but so what? In the outer sect, It could be said that Lin Yuan's identity covered the sky with one hand. In the inner sect, he was also a direct disciple of the King of Beasts, so very few people would offend him because of a single disciple. Yang Dao walked back and laughed bitterly. It's because I'm useless, I've let you down, I'm afraid that today's selection. Bailey Tianhai said, Elder Yang, don't blame yourself, I will settle this debt with Lin Yuan sooner or later. Long Fei also said, gold will always shine later, it's the same. That Lin Yuan is obviously targeting us. I really hate him, she huffed. Yang Dao replied, it's all because of me. Back then, when I took him into the ancient antiquity, I only said that his talent was flawed, and then he took it into his heart. I only wanted him to realize his own inadequacies, but... Sigh. Yang Dao sighed. Bailey Tianhai said, Elder Yang, don't worry, the level of the big and innocent blood vein is not high, his talent is very strong, just wait and see. He'll definitely be able to intimidate the entire audience. At this moment, Zhao Dahan was already standing on the talent display stage. Lin Yuan laughed disdainfully, and said, show me your talent. Zhao Dahan replied, my talent is power. Lin Yuan asked, strength? You are very strong. Zhao Dahan replied, Lin Yuan said, since your strength is very strong, then let me test how strong you are. And then, Lin Yuan walked out. The disciples that were not in the ancient sect were slightly surprised. Yang Dao was also shocked. One must know that Lin Yuan was an inner disciple. His cultivation level was far higher than Zhao Dahan's. Yang Dao immediately said, Clan Elder, the talent display shouldn't be tested by the inner disciples, right? How to test it is our business. How are you, a small recruitment officer, going to do so much? The elder said heavily. Lin Yuan walked to the stage and glanced at Zhao Dahan. Pausing for a few seconds, Lin Yuan smiled, and said, come, let me experience your power. Zhao Dahan hugged his fists, and said, then I won't be polite. He punched out. A sonic boom could be heard. But, without waiting for his fist to fall, Lin Yuan's eyes turned sinister. Clenching his fist, the ring on his index finger suddenly exploded out, with a punch landing 3 inches under Zhao Dahan's armpit. Poochie. Seeing that, Bailey Tianhai's gaze turned serious, oh no. Seeing that, Bailey Tianhai's gaze turned serious, oh no. That's where the big and silly hood door lies. Everyone had their own weaknesses. With Zhao Dahan's inborn divine strength, the weakness of his body was even more obvious. As long as he hit the weakness, all the strength in his body would dissipate and he would be unable to gather any strength for a short period of time. Obviously, Lin Yuan saw through Zhao Dahan's weakness. His cultivation was only at Master Swordsman rank, his honest cultivation was only at Big Swordsman, the difference in realm was too huge. In a few seconds Lin Yuan was able to discover his hood door. The key was, Zhao Dahan was very simple. He thought Lin Yuan just wanted to test his strength and didn't have any defense against his hood door. Bam! Zhao Dahan's eyes bulged out, his body retreated continuously, unable to control his own huge body, he fell on his butt on the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood, all the energy in his body dissipated, unable to release it in a short period of time. Lin Yuan sneered, so this is innate divine power? Natural trash is more like that. Disdain was written all over his face. He looked at Yang Dao with eyes full of ridicule and thought, you want to be selected for the person you brought? It's almost like a dream. If it wasn't for your words, I would have been a disciple of the Sword Elf Mountain, and Liu Luoshi might have been my woman. It's all because of you. Regarding this matter, the hatred in Lin Yuan's heart was extremely deep. Lin Yuan walked back to his seat and lightly said, unqualified, next. He immediately wrote an insert on Zhao Dahan's name. The elder of Inner House above did not say a word, because they did not know that Lin Yuan had struck Zhao Dahan's hood door. They only saw Zhao Dahan being flung out. Naturally, he would not pass. Bailey Tianhai helped Zhao Dahan up, he was extremely furious, and stared at Lin Yuan, but did not reveal it. You came with me, right? Just you wait. Zhao Dahan stood up with some difficulty and said, second brother, I've disappointed you. Bailey Tianhai said, it's fine, Second brother will take revenge for you later. After half a minute. Next, Bailey Tianhai. Bailey Tianhai walked forward. Long Fei warned, be careful. Bailey Tianhai nodded his head, Walking to the side of the green stone with the blood vein, an outer disciple said to Bailey Tianhai, Spirit blood, drop on the green stone. Bailey Tianhai moved his right hand, and with a flip, a drop of spirit blood fell from his palm. The green stone had been absorbed. Light flashed. It was also at this time. The disciple wanted to repeat the same trick again by suppressing the green stone with one palm, but Bailey Tianhai didn't give it a chance, as he placed one hand on the green stone. The disciple's eyes turned sinister as he snapped, What are you doing? Bailey Tianhai said, I'll cast some magic on my spirit blood, to make it stronger. The green light rose. Bam! 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 This meant that the blood vein's power had not completely awakened, and could still be raised. If he hadn't fully awakened, then wouldn't that be even higher? The entire audience was stunned. Rank 9 blood vein, and it has not fully awakened. Damn. Too fierce. It's actually a 9th level blood vein. If it was fully awakened, wouldn't that be the immortal stage blood vein? The first one is a 9th stage blood vein. The surroundings went into an uproar. At this moment, even Elder of Inner House raised his head and noticed Bailey Tianhai. This was the first time they had paid attention to a disciple. Lin Yuan's eyes darkened. He was no longer happy. The expression of the outer sect disciple also secretly changed as he said, 9th stage of the blood vein, intermediate. A 9th stage blood vein could only be considered above average in the ancient antiquity but it could not reach a high level. The disciple said, Let's go to the talent display area. Bailey Tianhai did not leave, but smiled slightly and said, The spirit blood earlier was actually mine. As soon as he finished, the surroundings went into an uproar. The outer sect disciple was even more furious. How dare you cheat? Bailey Tianhai said, I did not cheat, I only tested Zhao Dahan's blood vein again. What? Wasn't that Zhao Dahan just a 3rd stage blood vein? What's the situation? How did it become a 9th level blood vein again? That's impossible, right? How long has it been? The blood vein's level increase is this fast. The disciple shouted, What nonsense are you spouting? There's no way the testing for the green stone could go wrong. Are you questioning the ancient antiquity? A large hat was directly taken off. Bailey Tianhai wasn't anxious in the slightest, he faintly smiled and said, The one I question isn't the ancient antiquity, the one I question is you. That disciple's expression changed. Brat, I don't know what you're talking about. Bailey Tianhai said loudly, I know everyone is confused, it is obviously a 3rd stage blood vein, how did it suddenly become a 9th stage blood vein? Or should I say, cheating? If you think I'm cheating, then now please clearly look at my blood vein's rank. At this moment, Bailey Tianhai's right palm faced upwards, and a drop of water seeped out from spirit blood's palm. Spirit blood descended, and directly landed on the testing green stone. The green stone was absorbed by spirit blood, following immediately. The green light kept rising, one after another. The 7th section. The 8th section. Section 9. Section 10. You have already reached the immortal stage S, and you are still going crazy online. Section 13. Section 15. My God. Even Elder of Inner House stood up in unison as he looked excitedly at Bailey Tianhai. Boom. Section 18. The green light stopped, but the light was still flickering, and was unable to break through the 19th section due to some restriction, meaning that the blood vein's power had not fully awakened. If he awakened, his level would be even higher. If he were to break through 20 sections, he would be considered a holy vein. Yang Dao was also secretly nervous. I never thought that the level of blood vein would actually be this high. Long Fei was also slightly shocked. Impressive. Of course. What was strong was not only the blood vein, but even more so, Bailey Tianhai's brain. Bailey Tianhai said lightly, Are you still questioning my cheating? If it was said that the 9th stage blood vein only attracted attention, then the 18th stage blood vein had caused a sensation in the heart of the Elder of Inner House. The weight of his voice was different now. Immediately, An elder immediately shouted, "What's going on?" That disciple was so scared that his face turned pale and he kneeled on the ground. "Elder, I, too, do not know." His gaze turned to Lin Yuan, and asked for help. But who would have thought that Lin Yuan would leap out, with a slash of the long sword? It directly pierced through his throat and said with a heavy voice, "I almost lost a genius in ancient antiquity. Damn it." The disciple's eyes were filled with rage as he fell to the ground, unable to rest in peace. Lin Yuan whispered into Bailey Tianhai's ears, "Kid, you want to play with me? See how I'll play you to death." He was only an outer court disciple, yet he killed him so easily. He was only an outer court disciple, yet he killed him so easily. Moreover, those outer door presbyters didn't even dare to fart. The lives of outer sect disciples were like grass. It didn't matter if thousands or even tens of thousands of people died in one go, because in less than a year, there would be many outer sect disciples that would join the ancient antiquity. With regards to Lin Yuan suddenly striking out and killing, Elder of Inner House did not criticize him. "Fight with me. Watch how I play you to death." Lin Yuan sneered and walked back to his seat. Bailey Tianhai slightly smiled, and said, "Let's see who plays who to death." He was not Lin Yuan's match in terms of cultivation level. If he reached the talent display stage and Lin Yuan made a move, he would lose as badly as Zhao Dahan. Bailey Tianhai's brain was like a high-speed computer, constantly pondering over every result. In just half a minute, he had already thought of more than 130 results. The best result would be, "Give up." An elder looked at Bailey Tianhai, who was in a daze, and said, "High-level blood vein, go to the talent display stage and display your strongest talent." Bailey Tianhai said, "I give up." "Huh? What did he say? Give up? Is he crazy? Is my brain filled with water?" For a moment, everyone was stunned. Even the Elder of Inner House did not understand. How could a 18th stage immortal stage blood vein give up on displaying its inherent skill? Elder of Inner House slightly said, "Young lad, why did you give up?" Of the 18th stage, this was a genius that only appeared once every 100 years. At the very least, in these 10 years, there hadn't been a single blood vein that had reached the 18th stage. Lin Yuan sneered, "Bastard. Giving up is your best choice." He was ready. As long as Bailey Tianhai felt that his inherent skill was on stage, he would personally test him and cripple him. Bailey Tianhai said indifferently, "Because no one has been able to detect my talent." This was a bit too crazy. This was the ancient antiquity. What kind of genius was there? He actually said such a thing. Everyone was startled, unavoidably feeling that Bailey Tianhai was a little arrogant. "Huh?" Elder of Inner House's gaze darkened. He was also a little unhappy as he asked, "Why do you say that?" Bailey Tianhai said, "There are many types of inherent skills, such as having strength, having elements, having demon beasts. This kind of talent is easy to test, but my talent cannot be tested." The elder was even more curious. "What exactly is your talent?" Everyone was curious. Lin Yuan sneered, and said, "He just doesn't have talent, he's just a piece of trash." Bailey Tianhai smiled. Zhao Dahan said, "Second brother is going to act tough." Long Fei was startled, "Eh?" Bailey Tianhai's eyes fiercely stared, and the aura on his body exploded. Wang. All the strength in his body flowed into his head. In that instant, a shadow appeared above his head. 8 pieces of moving software. Instantly, someone shouted, "Brain? 8 pieces, 4 brains." The human brain is divided into 2 parts, the left and the right. At this moment, those outer door presbyters and Elder of Inner House were all so excited that they looked like they were seeing their own fathers. He was completely shocked. 4-brain genius. It's actually 4-brain genius. Ha ha ha. I never thought that a brainy genius that hasn't appeared in 1,000 years would actually appear, and it's even a 4-brain genius. Ha ha ha. Elder of Inner House became excited. 4 brains meant that his computational ability was astoundingly high. The 4-brain intelligence was an existence of supergods. 4 heads was not the main point of Bailey Tianhai's inherent skill, The main point was that his brain development rate was 2 times that of ordinary people, and it was still increasing. This brain. It was comparable to the existence of the system. Long Fei was also secretly surprised. As expected, it's still in my mouth. I'm going to take this brat for sure, don't argue with me. Fuck, what do you mean by yes? I still need to make a decision. Who's fighting with me? Who's in a rush with me? Coincidentally, Main Hall needs a demon. Main Hall is so arrogant. Even if the sect master comes, I will not let him go. Forebrain genius was too rare. This kind of person's IQ could instantly kill a sect. If someone like him were to do the math, figure out a way, and do the deduction, would he not have to worry about getting stronger? It was just like opening a slate. This was not just a single person opening a trap, but a mountain top opening a trap. How could he not go crazy? A few elder of Inner House S fought until their eyes were red and their necks were thick, just a little bit away from making a move. Bailey Tianhai's aura retracted, and he said indifferently, "Elders, do you think that there is anyone here that can detect my innate talent? The senior brother Lin from before? Not to mention trash, in front of me, his IQ can't even be compared to a pile of shit." Lin Yuan suddenly stood up and shouted, "Brat, what did you say? You dare to say that again?" Bailey Tianhai smiled slightly and said, "Do you think what I said was wrong? Then do you dare to accept my test?" Lin Yuan yelled, and said, "Am I afraid of you?" The corner of Bailey Tianhai's mouth hooked up as he sneered in his heart, "Listen carefully, what is his name?" Bailey Tianhai casually pointing at a disciple who was waiting to take the test. Phoenix immediately said, "Hubby, he's learning from you." Long Fei also laughed. Lin Yuan was startled, and shouted angrily, "How do I know his name? You call that a question?" Bailey Tianhai said, "You don't even know your own problems yet you dare to accept. Is it wrong to say that you're a piece of trash or a pile of crap? You." Lin Yuan's face turned red, on the verge of exploding. Bailey Tianhai laughed again and again, "Senior brother Lin, don't be angry, I was just messing around with you, why are you so angry? Alright, I have a few simple questions. If you can't answer this question, then you really are a piece of trash and a pile of shit." Without waiting for Lin Yuan to get angry, Bailey Tianhai said, "What kind of cloth can't be cut?" Lin Yuan was stunned, he looked at the people around him, and they too were at a loss. The people around him were the same, even the elders were thinking about this problem. Is there still any cloth in the world that can't be cut? Could it be iron cloth? Or is the scissors not fast enough? It's impossible for there to be such a material. Long Fei said softly, "What are you thinking?" Waterfall. Phoenix looked at Long Fei, and stared blankly for a moment. Lin Yuan shouted, "Where in the world is there a cloth that can't be cut?" Bailey Tianhai said, "The waterfall cannot be cut." Lin Yuan was startled, "Waterfall? Is waterfall also called bubu? Bailey Tianhai asked again, "What melon can't be eaten?" Long Fei said softly, "Idiot." Phoenix looked at Long Fei with a face of worship, both her hands tightly held onto Long Fei's arm. Long Fei muttered, "What's wrong?" Phoenix giggled and said, "Hubby, you're too smart. I'm worried that someone will steal you away." Long Fei laughed, scratched the nose of the Phoenix and said, "Idiot." Lin Yuan held his breath again until his face was flushed red, his mind constantly thinking of all kinds of fruits. Looking at the few senior brother disciples around him, all of them had their heads lowered. "I can't think of any. Let me give you a hint. Think about yourself," Bailey Tianhai said. Lin Yuan looked at himself and said angrily, "There is no such thing." Bailey Tianhai said, "Idiots cannot be eaten. I even gave you hints, I will let you see yourself. For people like you who have low IQ, I think even an idiot can't compare to you. Your intelligence evaluation is complete. Just as I expected, you're just a piece of trash with a pile of feces." Lin Yuan was furious. The flames of fury were burning. Being toyed with, Lin Yuan burned with anger. Being toyed with, Lin Yuan burned with anger. The muscles in the corner of his eyes twitched slightly. With a hua la sound, he pulled out his long sword, and his aura instantly turned into an intimidating pressure, crushing everything in his way. Bailey Tianhai was merely in the sword sect realm, so he could not withstand the pressure of the master swordsman rank. Bailey Tianhai's body sank. What? Do we have to make a move just because we can't beat him? So what? You actually dare to tease this young master? I'll take your dog life. The sword moved, about to stab between Bailey Tianhai's eyebrows. When the sword pierced through, Bailey Tianhai's life was definitely gone. Zhao Dahan's face changed. He wanted to rush up, but his strength had been scattered, and he had not recovered yet. Moreover, even if he rushed forward, it would be useless. He was also not Lin Yuan's match. Young master, Zhao Dahan said. Yang Dao's expression also became anxious. Only Long Fei remained calm and said softly, "Don't worry, Tianhai will be fine." Whether or not Bailey Tianhai's martial power was strong, he relied on his brain to survive. Once he ascended the talent display stage, he would be defeated by Lin Yuan before his inherent skill could even be displayed. At that time, even if he was an 18th stage immortal stage bloodvein, it would not garner much attention. It was different now. He had already displayed his 4 brain talents. Furthermore, it had also attracted the competition of the Elder of Inner House S. This way, if Lin Yuan wanted to make a move against him in front of so many Elder of Inner House S, it would be different. When Lin Yuan's sword came out, one of the Elder of Inner House bellowed, "Stop." A loud boom echoed out. Lin Yuan's sea of consciousness shook violently. However, Lin Yuan did not stop. He was the direct disciple of the King of Beasts and was deeply in love with him. Even if he killed Lin Yuan, he would be all right with the protection of the King of Beasts. The key was, Bailey Tianhai had to die. Therefore, he did not estimate that the Elder of Inner House would scold him like this, and still acted on his own, thrusting out with his sword. This caused the Elder of Inner House to lose a lot of face. His eyes became angry, and he bellowed, "I said stop, did you not hear me?" Rumble. His words released a mighty pressure. A thin layer of frost covered the surrounding 1,000 meters like the roar of a mad lion. As he spoke, he also covered the surrounding area. His face was thick with frost. Long Fei's pupils contracted. Damn, what about Qingji's fruit power? Ice-type power, very strong. A roar that carried the power of ice could be heard. This wasn't just an ice attribute, but also a power fusion of sound. The area within 1,000 meters was covered in frost, and the temperature plummeted. What incredible strength! Long Fei was secretly shocked in his heart. Lin Yuan's body was completely frozen, nailed in place without moving an inch. The elder of the Beast Mountain range stood up and said, "Brother Qin, there is no need to be so angry, right? Humph. Just now, killing an outer disciple was one thing, but now he wants to kill an outer disciple with the physique of an ancient ability. What does he want to do? You think that you can do whatever you want just because you're the disciple of the King of Beasts? This is the ancient antiquity, not a place of chaos." Qin Wanqing spoke in a heavy tone. The Beast Mountain elder nodded his head and said, "Brother Qin is right, Lin Yuan is too reckless. I will definitely punish him when we return to the Beast Mountain." Look. Qin Wanqing retracted his anger. Even the elder of the first mountain was like this, so he didn't say anything else. Let him remember then. And then, he retracted his aura. Just now, his entire body had been frozen solid. If not for the fact that Qin Wanqing still had some energy left in him, he might have already died. He then turned and bowed as he said, "This disciple will definitely remember the teachings of my dear elder Qin, and will never forget them." Qin Wanqing was also remembered in his words. He would definitely get his revenge. Qin Wanqing didn't mind. He looked at Lin Yuan and said lightly, "Little brother, are you interested in joining my everlasting peak? No matter what you wish to cultivate, I will provide it with my full power." He wanted Bailey Tianhai to join the absolute peak of the formation, otherwise he wouldn't have dared to offend the Beast Mountain to help Bailey Tianhai. Bailey Tianhai bowed and said, "Thank you, Elder, for saving me, and thank you, Elder, for showing kindness, but I am a sword cultivator, and would like to join Sword Elf Mountain." Ha ha ha. Sword Elf Mountain immediately laughed. "Brat, you have good eyes, you should join Sword Elf Mountain for your sword practice." My sword elf mountain just so happens to need people like you. Ha ha ha. He looked at Qin Wanqing and laughed complacently. Qin Wanqing looked at Bailey Tianhai with displeasure as he sat back down on his seat. He probably hated Bailey Tianhai to death. Bailey Tianhai also knew this in his heart, but even if he was to be hated, he had to enter the Sword Elf Mountain. It had to be known that Liu Luoshi was the one who entered the Sword Elf Mountain, the one who got the moon near the water tower. He did not want to go to another peak, because he would lose a lot of opportunities this way. Phoenix pouted and said, "Hubby, is he really going to pursue that beautiful big sister fairy? Die by 100 li. If he dares to dig your corner, I'll definitely show him who's boss." Long Fei laughed. He couldn't say anything about Liu Luoshi because he was unable to confirm that Liu Luoshi was his woman. However, he believed it. If it was one of his women, then it didn't matter if it was with a hoe or with a shovel. His woman would only go crazy for him, and no one would be able to touch her. Lin Yuan returned to his seat, looked at Bailey Tianhai, and thought to himself, Sword Elf Mountain, right? Coincidentally, there are a few of my brothers over there. Offending me, it will be hard for you to even move an inch in ancient antiquity. All right. Next, Long Fei, outer door presbyter, called out his name. Phoenix's face was filled with excitement as she said, "Hubby, I'll be taking you as your master. Let me intimidate everyone." Long Fei laughed. Regarding his own blood vein, he knew it was strong. How could Long Baishan's ancient dragon body not be strong? Moreover, his blood vein might not be limited to just these. But his blood vein had never been detected before, and in his memories, his spirit blood had tested it many times, but none of the testing divine stones were able to detect his level of blood vein. Looking at the excited expression on Phoenix's face, Long Fei said in a bland voice, "I might have to disappoint you." Yang Dao patted Long Fei's shoulders and said, "Relax, don't be nervous. Whatever it is, I believe in you." Zhao Dahan gave a heavy shout as well, "Boss, do your best." Long Fei walked forward. If it was another outer sect disciple, his eyes would be much more respectful, because he knew that if he was a little bit careless, he might offend the future inner sect senior brother S. So he said very seriously, "Junior brother, condense a drop of spirit blood onto the divine stone." Long Fei nodded, and with a move of his palm, a drop of spirit blood's blood fell onto the green divine stone. Spirit blood was sucked in. Long Fei did not hold much hope, he knew what the result would be. However, this time, it was a little unexpected. Boom! With an explosive sound, a glaring green light shot out from the god stone. Compliment. The strong light was glaring, exploding out from the first section. The green light released from the god stone was like a beam of light, enveloping everything within a radius of a few kilometers. The strong light was glaring, exploding out from the first section. The green light released from the god stone was like a beam of light, enveloping everything within a radius of a few kilometers. Everyone was shocked. Those elder of inner houses also stopped quarreling, their gazes all focused on the test god stone. All of them were stunned. What's going on? I've never met one. How can there be such a strong light? And it's even the first round? Have you been in this situation before? Even the elder of inner house had never encountered such a unique situation. The stronger the light, the higher the grade. Logically speaking, the light that should have burst out from the divine stone should have been the result of Long Fei's blood vein being at a very high level, but the light only stopped at the first section. It did not rise. Just one section. This made the elders even more confused. They looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Outer door presbyter was even more confused. For a moment, everyone looked at Long Fei. The disciple beside the divine stone said submissively, "Junior brother, this spirit blood is. Is it because the purity is not high enough? Why don't you try again?" Long Fei himself was a little surprised. In the past, when he was testing the level of blood vein, he basically could not detect anything. He also wanted to know the rank of his blood vein. Immediately, Long Fei nodded and said, "All right." Another drop of spirit blood's drop fell. This time, Long Fei looked at the divine stone seriously. The strange scene happened again. This time, there was no reaction at all from the testing stone. It was as if it had not absorbed any blood vein. There was not even the slightest reaction, not even a single bit of green light was emitted. The last time was when divine light burst forth. This time, there was nothing. Everyone was stunned again. An elder said in disdain, "What nonsense is this? If the divine light flourished, even a single section would attract their attention." However, there wasn't even a single beam of light. What did this mean? This meant that the blood vein's level was unstable. This was also known as the trash blood vein. It was impossible to control, and it was also impossible to unleash the power of the blood vein. Sometimes good and sometimes bad. This was a taboo for cultivation. Another elder laughed, "Looks like it's a trash blood vein. This is the first time I've encountered this kind of blood vein. It might be very strong in the first second, but it'll become trash in the next second. This kind of blood vein is uncontrollable and won't be of any use at all. Yeah. It's not even once in 1,000 years for the forebrain genius, and it's even less once in 10,000 years for this trash blood vein. He can be considered a weirdo." Ha ha ha. Many people began to laugh. Lin Yuan said, "What kind of person bring what kind of person? Isn't Yang Dao just an old trash who brought trash? He's brought along trash that hasn't been seen in 10,000 years. Yang Dao, you really do give face to ancient antiquity." Lin Yuan ruthlessly mocked. Yang Dao's eyes darkened. Long Fei also sneered, his heart was filled with disdain. He did not argue for himself. He also did not have the power to prove that his blood vein possessed. However, an elder said a lot of things. Long Fei was indeed unable to control the power within blood vein, but not when it was strong, or when it was weak, but when it was strong, it would be stronger, and the strength of the blood vein had never been weak. Yang Dao looked at Long Fei as he walked forward and said, "Don't be discouraged, you still have talent display to show." Phoenix was also looking at Long Fei. Her two large eyes were staring straight at Long Fei, but she did not say anything. He looked to be deep in thought. Looking at Long Fei, then looking at the testing god stone, he muttered to himself, "Such a low-level testing god stone, even his blood vein wouldn't be bothered to be tested. Hubby's blood vein has its own consciousness, the level of this blood vein. I knew Aunt had this kind of blood vein." No one heard her voice. No one would understand even if they heard it, much less believe it. The blood vein had spiritual awareness. Possessing his own consciousness. Was this a story? It was impossible. Even blood vein had a consciousness. What kind of concept was that? Impossible. Long Fei only knew that his own blood vein's power contained a very strong power. He was unable to detect it, but he did not know that his own blood vein had an independent awareness. Blood vein disdained to be tested by this divine stone. Thus, there were many times when Long Fei would test his own blood vein, but he did not find any results. Is there a need to display your inherent skill as a waste blood vein? Lin Yuan sneered, "A piece of trash like you doesn't need to waste our time." You're right. Next, don't waste everyone's time. This time elder of Inner House did not say anything. Even if a trash blood vein had talent, it would still be trash talent, and would not be of any use at all. Yang Dao fought for his life. "Elder, his blood vein level is indeed not high, but his talent is extraordinary. I hope Elder can give him a chance." Yang Dao regarded Long Fei very highly. Amongst the three of them, the one he was most optimistic about was Long Fei. It was just that. The power emitted from Long Fei's body had not been fully awakened, so it could not be seen. Lin Yuan laughed. "Yang Dao, you are a piece of trash. Do you think we are trash as well? If his inherent skill is not ordinary, then why is his cultivation still in the apprentice realm? I'm just asking. Is there anyone here who has a realm lower than his?" It was loud. All the disciples shook their heads. "Only in the apprentice realm? I am already in the big swordsman realm. How dare he, a mere apprentice realm, come to this place to select? He's not sleepwalking, is he? Isn't the realm of the apprentice a bit too useless? Ha ha ha. He really dares to come. The weakest are all big swordsmen." Amongst these exam candidates, Long Fei's realm was the lowest. 8th stage apprentice. This was all thanks to Long Fei's hard work in the past 2 days in refined space cultivating and making a breakthrough. But this was the lowest realm here. Bailey Tianhai said, "Elder, he is my big brother, can you give him a chance?" Bailey Tianhe also began to plead. The weight of his voice was different now. Lin Yuan said, "Today, there are a lot of people testing us, so let's not waste time." The elder from the Sword Elf Mountain said lightly, "Lin Yuan is right, I think we should forget about it." Bailey Tianhai said, "Elder, my big brother will definitely not disappoint you, I hope that you can give him a chance." He had seen Long Fei unleash his power before. He knew that his talent was extraordinary. But he just missed a chance to show off. The Sword Elf Mountain elder looked displeased, and said, "His cultivation is too low, if his talent is good, his cultivation would not be so low, forget about it." Bailey Tianhai said, "If you don't give him the chance, I will give up and enter the Sword Elf Mountain." If you don't give him a chance, I will give up the chance to enter the Sword Elf Mountain. If you don't give him a chance, I will give up the chance to enter the Sword Elf Mountain, Bailey Tianhai said with a serious face. Long Fei stared blankly at him for a moment, then immediately said, "Tianhai, don't speak nonsense. Hurry up and take back your words." Yang Dao was also worried, and hurriedly explained, "Elder, he's still a child, don't take emotions to heart." The clan elders of the Sword Elf Mountain were not happy to see him. He had not even entered the Sword Elf Mountain, yet he already dared to ask for his help. This made him very unhappy. This sentence made him even angrier. If not for the fact that Bailey Tianhai was a forebrain genius, he would have scolded him already. He narrowed his eyes and said, "I pretended I didn't hear what you just said. Don't say any more. Do you understand?" Anger burned in his eyes. Bailey Tianhai had already touched his bottom line. Long Fei immediately pulled Bailey Tianhai back, and said, "Don't say any more, even if I don't have talent to show, I will still pass the inner sect examination and enter. Don't give up your future." Offending Lin Yuan was not a big deal, but knowing that it was a elder of Inner House was different. Moreover, Bailey Tianhai had just offended Qin Wanqing, and if he knew about the clan elders of the Sword Elf Mountain, would he still be able to enter the inner sect in the future? Bailey Tianhai's personality was also firm and resolute, and he said, "Boss, we have sworn brothers before, we share both honor and disgrace, and also share misfortune and blessings. If you can't even enter the inner sect, then what's the point of me entering it alone? How boring." And then, Bailey Tianhai shouted once again, "If you don't agree, I will give up and enter the Sword Elf Mountain." Just as he finished speaking, the elder of the Sword Elf Mountain shouted, "Impudent." The rage raged. At the same moment, the ground began to move as if a monster was about to break out from the ground. Yang Dao immediately replied, "Please calm your anger, elder." Without waiting for Yang Dao to finish speaking, the elders of the Sword Elf Mountain glared at him. Plop. Yang Dao was crushed to the point of kneeling on the ground, his face pale white, unable to say a single word. Bailey Tianhai frowned. Long Fei squinted. The Sword Elf Mountain elder continued, "What do you think the ancient antiquity is? What do you think the Sword Elf Mountain is? Do you really think that you can do whatever you want just because you have the talent to do so? Kid, this is the ancient antiquity, do you understand?" His voice was filled with rage and might. Bailey Tianhai did not give in, and said, "Of course I know this is the ancient antiquity, so it should be even more so. Just because of his blood vein level? How preposterous." The Sword Elf Mountain elder was extremely angry. She didn't think that Bailey Tianhai would still dare to argue. Lin Yuan found the appropriate timing to interrupt and said, "Your sight is above his, he did not even put all of the elders in his eyes, and just now, Elder Qin was doing the same, now Elder Yu is also doing the same. This kind of person who has no respect for his elders is not fit to join the ancient antiquity." Lin Yuan laughed crazily in his heart. He thought that it was certain that Bailey Tianhai would enter the inner sect, since forebrain genius was rare, but he never expected such a thing to happen. He was extremely pleased with himself. Lin Yuan's fire had indeed displeased many elder of Inner House. Especially the elder of the Sword Elf Mountain. The anger in his eyes grew even stronger. He stared at Bailey Tianhai and said, "Are you still insisting on this?" Bailey Tianhai said, "This is a chance my big brother should have." Long Fei wanted to stop him, but Bailey Tianhai had also gotten angry and refused to listen to his words. Long Fei also dared to make a move in his heart. With such a brother, what else could he say? To share life and death, to share misfortune and blessings. "All right." The Sword Elf Mountain elder replied heavily. Immediately, a violent rumble came from the ground. Rumble. The examinees began to shake. The Sword Elf Mountain elder said solemnly, "From now on, you are no longer Sword Elf Mountain's disciple, and you should forget about entering the inner sect for the rest of your life. If anyone has a subordinate, then they will be irreconcilable with my Sword Elf Mountain." Anger soared. How could a mere disciple dare to contradict him like this just because he had some talent? If he didn't show some respect, then how would he, an elder, continue to be like this? Many of the elder of Inner Houses did not say a word. Sword Elf Mountain was the strongest in the ancient antiquity. He did not dare to offend them. Moreover, in the hearts of elder of Inner House like them, it was indeed a little too much for Bailey Tianhai to stand up for a trash. Bailey Tianhai frowned. "Then how about my big brother's chance to showcase his talent?" The Sword Elf Mountain laughed coldly and said, "No, we don't waste our time on a piece of trash." Bailey Tianhai's gaze darkened, as he also wanted to get angry. The Sword Elf Mountain elder was already enraged. If he were to retort again at this time, the result would probably be his death. Long Fei heavily pulled Bailey Tianhai back, walked up and said, "I accept all the arrangements." Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei and said, "Big brother, you." Long Fei said, "I'm fine. Isn't it just not giving me the chance to show my talent? If I don't show it, then so be it. It's not like I have any talent anyway." Long Fei's heart was filled with anger. He really wanted to directly wipe them all out. However, if this was the case, then he would cut off Bailey Tianhai's and his future, and he would also let Yang Dao receive a heavy punishment. It might even reveal Phoenix's whereabouts. At a time like this, he had to endure. Be it laughed at, be it called trash, or be crushed by the powerhouse, he believed that he would be able to take revenge for everything that had happened today. Because he was Long Fei. He ate everything, but he never suffered a loss. Yang Dao was also relieved. He was glad that Long Fei was calm. If Long Fei did not stop Bailey Tianhai, Sword Elf Mountain's elder, you would definitely kill him. As long as nothing happened, they still had a chance even if they weren't chosen by the inner sect. Since he couldn't enter the inner sect, he would start from the outer sect. Yu Zhongkong coldly glanced at Long Fei. In his heart, he hated Bailey Tianhai even more than before. It was precisely because of this trash, Long Fei, that he lost his talent. Yu Zhongkong clenched his fists tightly, feeling extremely displeased in his heart. Lin Yuan was the happiest one. None of the people Yang Dao brought were chosen. As long as he didn't enter the inner court, he, an inner court disciple, would be able to crush everything within the outer court. Just like when he killed an outer court disciple earlier, he could do whatever he wanted. Yang Dao, you old trash, you still want to gift someone to the ancient antiquity? I want all the people you brought here to die here. Just you wait. This is just the beginning, ha ha ha. Lin Yuan laughed crazily in his heart. Outer door presbyter replied heavily. Next. Lu Feng. Long Fei and the rest left. Long Fei said to Bailey Tianhai, "You're too reckless. Elder Yang, can you see if you can find some connections and make Tianhai admit his wrongs and enter the inner court?" Bailey Tianhai immediately rejected. Such an inner sect is not interesting at all. Big brother, us three brothers will enter the ancient antiquity together. What's the point of me entering the inner sect by myself? I might as well go with you guys. Just like you said, we three brothers will work hard together in the outer sect. Let's see who can stop us. The selection later on became boring. The selection later on became boring. Of the thousands of people, only 8 were chosen. Every person who was able to come here was a genius, so the conditions for choosing a genius were even more harsh. The 8 people chosen were all ancient elites with extraordinary strength. They directly entered the inner court and became high and mighty inner court disciples, causing the exam disciples and the outer court disciples to be incomparably envious. Entering the inner court could be said to be the dream of every outer court disciple. Only by truly entering the inner sect could one be considered to have entered the ancient antiquity and the outer sect. He was like a hodgepodge. Cultivation resources were scarce, so cultivation techniques, elixirs, and holy source stones were all the lowest level common streets. Not only that, every outer sect disciple had to complete some missions issued by the sect every month. These missions basically served the inner sect. Sweep the courtyard, search for spirit grass, search for a certain demon beast's trace, collect some unknown domain's information, inquire about other sects' information, etc. Over the course of a long period of time, just these tasks alone could extinguish a person's fighting spirit. Not many people could still remember their ambitions when they first entered the ancient antiquity, and not many could still risk their lives without hesitation. All of them had withered in the outer sect. Erosion. And then disappear into the world. All of the outer court disciples were never taken seriously, and not a single inner court disciple noticed this, so they were unable to enter the inner court. These outer court disciples were like trash that had been branded on their bodies. He would never be able to get up. It was forgotten. Even so, not many people were willing to leave this place, because the identity of an outer court disciple of the ancient antiquity. The outer sect might not be much. However, in the outside world, their status was extremely honorable. As for their families, because of their status, they would be able to stand tall. Once they lost that status, they would definitely be suppressed. Whether or not they could survive in this world was a problem. And then again, there would always be a little bit of hope here, and a little bit of opportunity there. The inner sect examination was held once a year. Once you pass, you can also enter the inner sect. However, in these 100 years, there had not been a single person who had passed the inner sect examination. Many people believed that the inner sect examination was just a hope for the outer sect, a hope that could never be realized. All right, the 3 of you will be living here from now on. This is your identity plates, so keep it well. If you lose it, you won't be able to make up for it. Remember, you need to complete the sect's 3 missions in a month. You can freely control the rest of the time. Then that's it. An inner disciple brought Long Fei and the other 2 to a dilapidated courtyard. The courtyard was covered by straw and half of it had already collapsed. The yard was also filled with all sorts of weeds. For at least 10 years, no one had lived here. Bailey Tianhai could not help but ask, is this also a place that humans live in? Why can everyone live in a courtyard? We only have this kind of thatched courtyard. Someone else. Others are others, you are all them. Don't you see who you have offended, and even dare to offend the elder of Inner House? Do you think you can continue staying here? We'll talk about it later. If others want to live in a good house, that is because they gave you money. If you want to live in a good house, that is fine too. The disciple said arrogantly. Bailey Tianhai asked, why do I see them giving us 10 holy source stones so that we can have 50? That disciple said, it's because you have offended the elder of Inner House that you must pay 50 holy source stones, and not even a month. 50 a month. It didn't seem like much, but to the 3 of them, it was an astronomical figure. Moreover, cultivating required holy source stones, and even if there was, cultivation was of utmost importance. Zhao Dahan scratched his head. How do we have that many holy source stones? The disciple laughed. You can write down the accounts first. Each of you has a monthly rule of 10 holy source stones. You can first pay 30 each month, and the rest can be exchanged for spirit stones. With 3 of them together, it should be possible. They were going to squeeze all 3 of them dry. Long Fei said, forget it, I think this place is pretty good too. It is quiet, with no one disturbing us, it is very suitable for quiet cultivation. TCH. That disciple disdainfully said, you can tell from one look that he came from the countryside. Zhao Dahan asked, senior brother, What about our monthly record for this month? I think they've already sent it. Where's ours? The disciple laughed coldly and said, the rent of this house is 30 holy source stones. Zhao Dahan said, don't you have more cultivation pills? The disciple said, spirit pellet. What spirit pill? Why didn't I know? If you want some spirit dance, go to Elder Chen. I don't have any here. Then that's it. With that, he left. After walking a few steps, he stopped and looked at them with contempt. As your senior brother S, I need to remind you that offending inner sect senior brother S is very deadly. Not only did you offend the inner sect senior brother S, you also offended them. Otherwise, within 3 days, you will all die. Of course, if you want to stay here, then contact your family and ask them to send more holy source stones over. It's easy to do business here with money. As long as you have money, you can settle a lot of things. Understood? After which, he left in big strides. Bailey Tianhai spoke harshly to the disciples in the distance. I understand your mother. This is bullying. Phoenix also muttered with her small mouth as she looked at Long Fei and said, I have. Long Fei glared at her, but Phoenix did not say anything more. When they were in Neon City, the Phoenix had taken out 10,000 holy source stones before. However, this kind of rare source stone would definitely arouse suspicion. Long Fei did not want to take this risk, before he became strong. Long Fei said, God's general has always given great responsibility to sages. They must first have a hard time, starve their flesh and blood, then do whatever they want, thus, they must not act rashly, thus they cannot be used to increase their endurance. The three of them looked at Long Fei with stupefied expressions. Even the four-brain geniuses Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei blankly, and said, What do you mean? Long Fei laughed, You're still in four-brain genius, you don't even understand the meaning behind those words, I think your IQ is less than 5. What melon cannot be eaten, what cloth scissors do not stop? If you can even ask this kind of question, then what are those thoughts of yours? Bailey Tianhai laughed awkwardly, ha ha ha. Long Fei said, All right, let's clean up. From today onwards, this is our home in ancient antiquity. Our dream, our goal will begin from here. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.